the Air Comfort Service text line. Oli Marmol, an aggressive decision to go to his bullpen in the 7th inning. You go to JoJo, you go to Kittredge, you go to Hurley to close that bad boy out. Alex, they did exactly what they needed to do. They got the victory, and that is ultimately what they were trying to accomplish there. That being said, when you go to your bullpen, when your starter is at fewer than 70 pitches in that spot, it is going to be criticized, and I think that's pretty understandable. So here's Oli Marmol more on why he decided to pull Miles Mikolas early in that game yesterday.
We got 3 guys that are really good on the back end. He's going right through the lane. At that point, it's not pitch count. It's more familiarity with the hitters that got him. And the guys that were coming up had 2 homers against him. That's JoJo's lane there with 2 lefties coming up. They don't have a righty off the bench today unless they wanted to get Bregman going again. So those guys went in order.
Alex, this is not the first time they've done this with Miles Mikolas this season. He threw 75 pitches in 4 innings against the Mets, 79 pitches in 5 innings against Boston, and they only allowed 1 run and 2 hits in those 79 pitches. He goes against the Chicago Cubs, 6 innings, 3 earned runs. That's a quality start. Only throws 82 pitches. I think they have shown with their handling of Miles Mikolas exactly how they feel about him this year. They know he's always an inning away from potentially blowing up, and it wasn't worth the risk yesterday when you needed a win in that spot. I liked it. It was aggressive. It's been questioned. How did you feel about it?
I was fine with it, but I should preface saying I'm fine with it by I'm good at analogies, right? No Disney one here for you guys, but it's like getting into a car accident and doing thousands of dollars of damage, but saying, hey, at least I didn't total my car. Like, I understood what they did with it. You had to pull them because you knew it was going to blow up, and frankly, you had to get 1 win in that series. You couldn't get swept. But you did it because, 1, you don't trust your starting pitcher who comes into the season as your number 2. I think it's very evident he's not your number 2 because you don't trust him. But also, it's the same scenario for the Cardinals to where every single game that is within reach, we're going to have to go to our bullpen and we're going to have to go to our 3 best guys because it's the only way we win baseball games. And guess what? That is a recipe for disaster throughout an entire season. It's June 6th right now. And I think probably half of the season, maybe more, because I know my statistics guy over here is going to look at that for me. I would say half of the season, it's been, all right, we got to go to Kittredge, JoJo Romero, and Ryan Hurley because we have to win this game, and we're only up by 2.
A lot more than half.
There you go.
The Cardinals have 29 wins so far this year. Ryan Hurley has pitched in 24 of them. JoJo Romero has pitched in 23 of them. And Andrew Kittredge has pitched in 21 of them. There's a very clear formula. It is like, if this, then this. If the Cardinals are going to win, then Hurley, Romero, and Kittredge almost certainly pitched.
I know T-Bone hasn't seen this. You've seen Final Destination, right? In every single movie, the person, the star of the show, sorry, spoiler alert, sees the death coming to them. I think we're seeing it right now because you're using these guys so much because none of your starting pitchers you feel comfortable with because you know if it's a 2-run game, this is going to blow up. So again, I was fine with what they did. I respect Miles Mikolas for saying in the locker room afterwards, like, hey, we got guys who could who can lock that game down, and more power to them. I still think it's a massive problem for this team.
First, Mikolas gave a kind of backhanded response of, well, it felt like spring training getting pulled. Maybe I should have gone to the bullpen. Okay, so Mikolas didn't enjoy getting pulled, first off. Second, I know it worked, but I'm still not a fan of it. Okay? He's had 62 pitches through 6 innings. Guys, to your point on the bullpen, poor JoJo probably can't comb his hair. He's been used so much this year. They need to start giving these guys some days off, or at least trying to limit some of their roles.
How would you have felt yesterday if they lose that game, though?
Oh, it would have been
if they stick with Mikolas, he gives up a couple of hits, then you bring JoJo in, but he's already past the lefties in the lineup, and now he's going up against exclusively right-handed hitters who he kind of had trouble with earlier in this series. Now what? How do you feel now?
I would have been saying Mikolas
And I know
stinks.
I'm playing a what-if game, but you're also playing a what-if game.
Fair, but
goes both ways.
The reason that I don't even want to say I'm critical of it because they won, so you can't be critical of it. I'm not going to say here and say, dang it, I really wanted a loss. But the reason that I think that you need to stick with Mikolas in that situation is because, 1, he would have been on a short lease, to your point there. 2, I would have just probably then flipped around the roles. Kittredge would have came in the 7th. JoJo would have been in the 8th, potentially. But the reason that I think you probably need to stick with Mikolas in that situation, because 1, his pitch count is low, but guys, the offense, we talked about it yesterday. They're not winning a lot of big games. It's why they're using those bullpen arms so often to what your numbers were just a second ago, BK. The offense can't manufacture runs to where you have a day off for the bullpen, for the big three. So what do I need to do? If I've got a starter that is cruising through that game, whose stuff looks pretty good, and I'm not even including his numbers from yesterday's start, but in his 4 previous starts, hold opponents to a 5.99 OPS and had a ERA that was below 4, and it was at the 3.91 and a FIP of 3.62. That guy should keep going for me because I need to give this bullpen arm.
Last year in those scenarios?
No, we cannot. You
Because
need
you're
to have
using
the
a
bullpen
really
arms.
small sample size of him getting through the third time this year.
We cherry pick as a show, okay? My whole point is, though, is the offense is not good enough to give you multiple days off for those big arms. So my best case scenario there is to allow my starter, who was cruising at that point, sure, he had given up 2 home runs, but had looked pretty good and stuff still looked pretty sharp in my opinion.
Get him, BK.
Hey,
to
Alex,
go with him again.
Hey, Alex, I'm going to talk to you for a second. 'Cause I'm not going to yell at T-Bone.
This is somewhat of a tone thing, but go for it.
It's such a
Last
tone
year,
thing.
Miles Mikolas, when he went the third time through, gave up a batting average against of 300 with an OPS of 920.
It's a
That
new
took
year.
place with 230 at-bats. Feels like a pretty good sample size, right?
I would say so.
230
300 makes me
at-bats.
feel
It's
better,
like
but sure.
A part-time major league player over the course of a season. So far this year, he has gone through the third time exactly for 60 at-bats. And so, sure, opposing hitters are batting .215 against him in those at-bats. You want to hear what they've done in the second time through the order when there is a bigger sample size of 113 at-bats against him? A
would love to.
330 batting average and a 980 OPS. Yeah, I don't want that dude seeing the third time through the order. No thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm good. He did what his job was in that game, which was give us a chance to win. We have lost the first 2 games in the series. We are on the verge of losing 5 out of 6 in the last 6 games of the road trip. I don't need that. I've got Sonny Gray on the mound tomorrow. My number 1 starter.
can give
That
you
is our
5 innings?
stopper.
Yeah, hold on.
Hey, give me a second. Let me cook. I've got Sonny Gray, my stopper, on the mound tomorrow.
5 and dive.
I'm going up against arguably the worst team in Major League Baseball in my next series against the Colorado Rockies.
Lost 2 or 3 of the White Sox.
I believe that the offense can get it going against them, so I won't have to lean as much on my big 3 in the bullpen.
How many times have you said that this season?
Yeah, many. This is why I felt comfortable yesterday going to my big guys in that spot. I am desperate. I am the guy that asked the last manager in a post-game press conference while up by 4 runs why he didn't go to a better reliever in a big spot against the Cubs when they were desperate for a win.
You're still wrong, but
Fair. And it blew up on them. Well, yesterday we saw them go to their big-time relievers in a big spot when they needed a win in a bad place. And I'm not going to criticize them for it. So I'm going to be consistent in that regard. I thought it was the right move. I liked Oli Marmol being aggressive with his bullpen and going out there and managing the game the way that many people have criticized him for not doing by going with the feel of the game. 2 of the guys that had hit him hard earlier were about to come up.
You used your best 3 relievers in 2 of the 3 games against the Athletics because they were all 1-run games. Your offense didn't break through.
These are pretty good.
You did it twice against
they've fallen apart.
Hold on, let me
we're
keep
pretty good this
cooking.
year.
You did it twice against the Tigers because you couldn't break away from that game. And by the way, you lost 2 of those games.
It's not what you want.
And you did it 2 times against the White Sox, and one of those they blew that game, and you lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox. If we're relying on your offense to bust open June 6th and not have to worry about it because
It's coming.
Sonny Gray is going to carry the team, I'm done. You can't sell me a bag of crap and tell me it's good.
It's coming.
That's the thing for me is, like, what you all said, I'm in. Like, yeah, Sonny Gray's today, sure, he should be able to deal for 7 innings. If he doesn't want out after 5, if he's not requesting out of the game.
The humidity is pretty bad tonight.
Yeah, he is so out after maybe
It's going to be
4.
hot tonight.
The offense, sure, they should kick the crap out of the Rockies. You know why? Because the Rockies suck. But guess what? This team lost 2 or 3 to the White Sox.
This team stinks.
This offense can't end up putting up enough runs to buy the bullpen a night off. It's why you're seeing these guys so much. That's why, again, I'm not being critical of Oli because I do like that he was aggressive. Except it's not October. This is still a marathon, not a sprint. And in my opinion, Miles Mikolas, when he was pitching the way he had, that you need to stick with him and try and get him through the 7th. Hell, maybe even try and get him through the 8th because this bullpen, those big 3 need to start getting some more time off so they are not burnt out. So when you get to October, you know what they're still doing? They're still pitching well.
Oh, so now we're We're trying to get through October. I'm trying to get to October, boys. Somebody on the text line from the 618. Great point here. Can't argue with it. It was the right move because it worked.
If that's the explanation we're coming to, then that person is satisfied with this team maybe making the playoffs, maybe missing by 2 games.
So I had no issue with it. I thought it was smart. I do want to answer this question from FedEx Colton. I guess not really a question, but it's a statement.
Hey, we met.
BK, stop saying that he was aggressive. That was the safe move. Letting Miles continue would have been aggressive.
Amen.
I disagree with that. I disagree with it wholeheartedly. The old school managing, like the classic what do I do here move, is to let Miles Mikolas continue. So that if that is the conventional wisdom, the aggressive against the grain move would have been to pull him. And then make no mistake about it, conventional wisdom last night was absolutely what T-Bone is saying, which is keep your guy in who is cruising, has pitched really well today, and allow your bullpen to get this night off. Hopefully he can get you through 8. You don't have to go through to JoJo. You don't have to go to Kittredge, and they're available today with Hurley to close things out on the back end. What he did was absolutely aggressive, and it definitely goes against the grain. I loved it. I hope he does more of it. But yes, they are going to have to find other relievers that are able to go into those big spots for you to get you some outs. Because right now you're leaning way too heavily on 3 guys. I do think it's worth noting JoJo only 10th right now in Major League Baseball, tied for 10th in appearances. Kittredge is 20th. Hurley is 30th. Given how often it feels like they're entering games, that's not as bad as I otherwise would have expected, given the fact that those are really 3 guys that feel like they're entering every game. He's Alex's T-Bone on BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Didn't think this was a story we were going to be talking about today. Dan Hurley, the head coach of the UConn men's basketball team, is apparently in talks with the Lakers to potentially become the new Lakers head coach. We'll talk about that, why it really doesn't make a lot of sense for him. But coming up next, how do the Cardinals stack up right now against the rest of the National League wildcard hopefuls? I'm going to read, Alex, some resumes, the way that we would if it was college football and we were talking about like the college football playoff back in the day. I'm going to read some resumes of these teams. You tell me how you feel about them. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. It's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. More energy, more confidence, more drive. That's what they're trying to do for you over at Victory Men's Health. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and when you walk through the door, you're going to be greeted by people that are there to help you get back to the best version of yourself. Maybe when you wake up, you're just not feeling like you got the greatest sleep the night before. You don't have that same amount of energy that you once did. Maybe just mood changes, joint pain. These are all potential symptoms of low testosterone. And And over at Victory Men's Health, when you walk in the door for the first time after you booked that appointment, they're going to do a lab draw kit, and they're going to find out exactly where your micronutrient levels are. They're going to find out where you're at on your testosterone levels as well. And when they get those results back, they're going to go through it all with you and tell you, hey, here are your options. Here's kind of what we're looking at. And they'll make a plan that makes sense for you. Victory Men's Health is there for you to unlock your inner champion. Go check them out today, one of their 4 great locations, or at victorymenshealth.com. All right, Alex, this National League wildcard race is wild. The Cardinals right now are a half game back of the final wildcard spot in the National League.
Not the good wild either.
No, not a good one at all. They're 1 game back of the second wild card in the National League. Because I'm with T-Bone. I never loved the idea of this third wild card being added. I always thought, hey, the logical endpoint here is teams are going to be in a race to the middle. They're just going to try to get into that third wild card spot. Teams that used to say, hey, let's win 90 games because that was the bar to clear to get to that second wild card or your division are now going to say, let's get to 86 because that's what the third wild card is now. And when you've got more and more of those teams chasing that, well, why are they going to be super aggressive at the deadline? Why in the offseason are they going to go out there and get, Chris Sale, for example? Why am I going to try to find that next big piece that'll put me over the top? So it lowers player salaries over the offseason, and we've kind of seen what that looks like. So here we are. The second wild card this year is the Cubs at exactly 500, which is terrible. That is not acceptable in Major League Baseball, and yet here's where we're at. Okay, so I'm going to give you some resumes, Alex, for teams recently and what they've done that are currently in the wild card standings, like around where the Cardinals are, right? This first team, in the past month, they have been swept by the Colorado Rockies and the LA Angels. But they did take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, and they won 3 out of 4 against the Braves.
What?
That team is the San Diego Padres.
Oh, gosh.
You want to talk about a roller coaster ride? We talk about this here in St. Louis with them sweeping the Orioles and looking good against Boston, playing well against the Cubs, and then stinking it up against the White Sox. Dude, let me show you the team that is managed by Mike Schilt playing in San Diego. They love nothing more than losing to bad teams lately. So that's number 1. Number 2. In the past month, this team has been swept by the Phillies and the Yankees. They can't seem to beat good teams. And they've lost 6 of their last 7 while putting 2 of their top 4 starters on the injured list. This team is the Giants. The Giants are struggling right now, to put it mildly. They are currently right with you in the wild card standings at 30 and 33. Another team that we could go with here, In the past 3 weeks, they've lost 6 series, all 6 series that they've played, that were not against the White Sox.
It's just the Cubs.
That's the Cubs.
I know they beat them, the White Sox.
It felt
Dude,
good.
these teams around the Cardinals are the Cardinals. They're all the Spider-Man meme looking at each other, just waiting to find out who's going to fall out of this race, because we're all super mediocre with massive holes in our roster. And so this is why yesterday we had that conversation about how do you evaluate this team? Because when you look at the National League, like, they look like a lot of the teams that you're competing against, but when you just watch them on a night in, night out basis, we can all acknowledge this is not good enough. Like, long term, you can't keep wash, rinse, and repeat this cycle, or it's eventually going to catch up to you. But I don't know if it's going to catch up to you this year, man, because these other teams are having many of the same issues that the Cardinals are. What do you make of the Cardinals in relation to the National League wildcard race right now, Alex?
It's all just a bag of bad. There's not much to take away from this. I mean, if you look at it, you won the series against the Cubs, you won the series against the Padres, you haven't played Pittsburgh yet, you won and lost the series against the Diamondbacks, and you lost the series, or you won the series against the Reds. So you've gotten the job done against these teams. Has it looked pretty in most of those games? Absolutely not. It feels like I'm watching two mediocre teams play against each other, and one is going to come out victorious. I still look at some of these teams, though, and I say, like, the cream always rises to the top, and once you get to the second half of the season, what's that team going to do at a trade deadline? And I can see a handful of these teams being aggressive in terms of trying to upgrade their team. And then I look at it down the stretch, and that's where I look at it, and I really don't know. I think when I view the Padres, they're a better team than the Cardinals, and I know the Cardinals beat them.
What, though?
I mean, their run differential is one area for me, but when you look at how they've performed, even if they're losing against bad teams, they've performed well against good teams, and they can rise to the occasion.
Well, what's better? Is it better to beat the bad teams on your schedule, or to lose to the good ones? So you're just like acknowledging this is who we are, or to have the ceiling that we've seen from other teams where you can beat the good teams, but sometimes you do lose to the bad. I don't know.
I mean, I think you see the best from a team when you beat a really good team. I think when you beat crap teams, you're like, yeah, you're supposed to do that. And when you lose to them, yeah, that's not a good look, but you see what the teams...
But you always say about the Cardinals, the reason why you're not in is because they're losing to the bad teams. And that is literally the San Diego Padres.
Right, but when I see them go up against the best teams... When they've gone up against the Dodgers, when they went up against the Phillies, I looked at it and I say, there's no more ceiling for this team. You're seeing what the ceiling is. And at least for the Padres...
the Cardinals swept the Baltimore Orioles, who are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball.
And I understand that one, but that one felt like when they beat the Dodgers last season, where it was like, look, they did it.
Couldn't I say the same thing about the Padres? Like, Padres last year had some good series.
And maybe I'm proven wrong at the end of the season, but for me, I feel like I look at that roster compared to your roster, and I'd say they're a little better than you.
Is it just pitching? Because I don't know that I look at their roster and say that, honestly. I don't know that I look at their roster and think to myself, like, man, that's definitely better than what the Cardinals have to offer. Luis Ariz has not been very good since coming over has not been power-wise the guy that they expected him to be since coming. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Is that really the team that you look at and you're like...
And I'm not saying they're demonstratively better than the Cardinals. I look at them and I say, I think by the end of the season, they're going to be in a better position than you. I don't think any of these teams are demonstratively better than you. You're all the same. I think you're talking about 6 teams that are going to be fighting for 2 wildcard spots.
And that's really what I'm getting at here, is not like an argument in favor of the Cardinals so much as an argument of, dude, good luck. Like, you can pick your favorite of this group, but they're all the same. I don't think... I think what you said is, like, there's not one that's demonstrably better than the other. That's really my point here. Yeah. And so we talk about the Cardinals on a day in, day out basis. The reason why I argued the other side of that with the Padres, I think you might be right. The Padres may prove to be better than the Cardinals over the long haul. I think this is the month where we really start to find out. Last year around this time, everything was kind of bunched up in the wild card standings. And then once you got to July 1st, it was like the 3 teams in the wild card were very clear. And then there was another 2. It was at that point the Phillies and the Reds that were like 3 or 4 games back. And then everybody else was out of it by the time that we got to July 1st. I think that's probably what we're going to see again this year. And the Cardinals could not have better timing with their schedule if that's going to be the case. Colorado, Pittsburgh, Miami, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh again. That's what they're going up against around this time before July 4th. I think they've got a good chance to be able to make up a decent amount of ground in the wild card standings. But I also think they could lose 3 of their next 4 against Colorado, and it shouldn't shock anybody because this is what happens when you're in the middle ground of the National League right now. I don't think it's good for baseball, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think what ends up becoming the separator for these teams is who ends up having their star hit. Look at all these teams that are in this ground that we're talking about. Arenado is not hitting for the St. Louis Cardinals. You look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Corbin Carroll's 38% below league average. You look at the Chicago Cubs. Belger's almost 20% above league average, but he's not the guy that you saw last year. Last year, he was an MVP candidate. You look at the San Diego Padres, who's not hitting for them? Manny Machado. Boom. There's why all these teams are stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
It's because they have stars that aren't performing. I think when you start to see the teams that will start to separate, and it probably will be this month, and it's why this should be the next series where you see Nolan Arenado hopefully start to show signs of coming out of it, which we've said for 2 months, is, okay, whoever gets their stars hitting, you're going to see their offense take it to the next level. And then it just comes down to how's your pitching holding up, And I look at the Cardinals. Do they have as good a rotation as some of these teams that are stuck in the muddy middle? Not on paper, but a lot of these teams are hurt. I mean, Blake Snell, hurt. You look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jordan Montgomery's the only guy that's healthy of their big 4 that is pitching, and he's not pitching particularly well. So they're all stuck in the middle. I think it is whoever ends up having their stars perform. And it's why, I keep saying, I cannot buy into this team until I see Nolan Arenado start hitting with Paul Goldschmidt. Because when they do, they can separate themselves from the muddy middle of the National League.
And that's why it feels like, and maybe that's where I fall on this. I view a Manny Machado and all of these other stars. I feel like they're more likely to break out of their slump than what Paul Goldschmidt's in. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. It's not a slump. We've seen it all season. They've gone on a little bit of a tear, and then they've fallen back down to earth. The other guys, I can say it's a slump, and maybe they break out of it.
I think Goldie's getting out of it. I think we unfairly put the two together right now. Goldie has shown some real signs for optimism over the last probably 3 weeks now. He's got a 900 OPS, and he's batting almost 300 in that stretch. But Arenado, it's tough, man. He hit a home run yesterday. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. That is the exact ballpark that is made for him. Having a short left field, pulling it in the air there when the ball flies, that is the exact ballpark that should get Nolan Arenado right. Maybe it helps continue going into this series against his former team. I'm sure there's some motivation there for Nolan Arenado, but I think there was a lot of motivation coming into this season, coming off of what was a down year for him. If there's one guy, though, Alex, that I know I can count on to believe in the St. Louis Cardinals more than me, it's Greg Amsinger. He had to say about his optimism about this team earlier today.
Yeah, I still am bullish about the Cardinals. I know I sound like a homer, and I kind of wish I didn't. I wish I didn't proclaim that the Cardinals were going to be a playoff. But this year, you can't sell me that the Milwaukee Brewers have more depth in their bullpen and rotation and lineup. And look at the names, and you tell me that the Milwaukee Brewers have a better baseball team than the St. Louis Cardinals. You wouldn't sell me on that. So I still think that the Cardinals could squeak in.
I believe it was right before the Baltimore series that we heard from Greg Amsinger, and he talked about how he and I forgot who he mentioned was with him, was watching Nolan Arenado tear it up in the batting cages and saying he's about to go on a run. 173 batting average since then. Yeah, he's had 3 home runs. 173 on base percentage, 218.
Don't tell me about the results, man. It's cool.
Don't tell you about the results, just tell you about the what-ifs.
I also disagree with him on the Brewers thing. At some point, we just have to admit they're better.
Yeah, we've been.
Yeah.
I was out on the. You guys know, I was the one that said, I don't believe in the Brewers. There's no way it works this time. They traded too much talent away. They let too many guys walk. Look at their lineup. Nobody that is a casual baseball fan can name more than 2 or 3 guys on their roster. They don't have their closer. They don't have their top 2 starters from a year ago. The formula has died for what the Brewers were. All of that remains true, and yet they are definitively, no doubt about it, the best team in the National League Central until proven otherwise. So they are a better team than you. Right?
The Cardinals have been second-guessing the Milwaukee Brewers since 2021, and it's bit them every single season. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, look at the Milwaukee Brewers. You can't tell me they're better. I can tell you they're better because they're 36-26 right now, and they're a plus 58 run differential, while you are the complete opposite of that. That's how they're better than you. And they whooped your ass both times you played against them this season.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm VK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll get to questions and answers. But next, Dan Hurley makes a lot of sense if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. But why does Dan Hurley want to go to the Los Angeles Lakers? We'll talk about that and what it means potentially for college basketball next year on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals avoid the sweep yesterday as they beat the Houston Astros 4-2. They are back in action tonight as they start a 4-game set here at home against the Colorado Rockies. Sonny Gray will get the start for St. Louis. Cal Quantrill will be on the mound for the Colorado Rockies. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, we've got Game 1 for you of the NBA Finals. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30 between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
All right, so there's a big report that came out earlier today nationally that, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, Alex, the best coach in college basketball, the coach of the team that has won each of the last 2 national championships, Dan Hurley.
Oh, I thought we were talking Brett Underwood for a moment.
The Lakers are reportedly targeting him to be their next head coach. Now, I believe the phrasing of that report is significant. It said that the Lakers are targeting him to be their next head coach. It did not say the Lakers are close to finalizing a deal with Dan Hurley to be their next head coach. And I think that is the part of this story that's getting a little bit lost in translation. I totally understand why the Lakers would want to make him their next head coach. He's a star. The Lakers like having stars. He's won each of the last 2 national championships in the college game. Frankly, there's not a lot of up-and-coming coaches in the NBA that make a lot of sense for that team. And it's a hard job. Like, it's a really hard job
because LeBron
to have the gravitas to be the guy that coaches LeBron James at the end of his career. So I get all of the reasons why the Lakers would be interested in Dan Hurley. Why the hell would Dan Hurley be interested in that job, Alex? We got somebody on the text line that said, what about the money, guys? It's like the highest paid coach in college basketball right now. That's not a low paid position. He has the most job security of anybody in college basketball. He's won the last 2 national titles. That dude could coach for the next 40 years at UConn if he wants to. You go to the Lakers, you could be fired next year. Just like that. And it wouldn't surprise anybody if LeBron decides, I don't want this guy here anymore. Alex, why would you take that job if you're Dan Hurley?
I can only put myself in his position, which I would never be. But honestly, it would be, I've done everything I can do at college basketball, and I want a shot at the NBA. And maybe that's something that's been a goal of his, to get to the NBA. I mean, when you're talking about going to the NBA, it's got to mean something to say that I'm the head coach of the Lakers. Sure. And if you're Dan Hurley, if that opportunity is presented in front of you, and to be a coach of LeBron James to where it seems LeBron wants him with your team. Now, that could also be the death of you in the Lakers, because when you stink, LeBron could want you out. But once again, here's my thought process. If I'm Dan Hurley, I've always wanted to be at the NBA. One of the best teams and historic teams is asking me to be their head coach. I'm going to get my money, but the safety net of college basketball is always going to be there. Because everybody in college basketball knows how successful I am. I just won back-to-back freaking championships. I go to the Lakers. Let's say worst-case scenario, I get fired next season. Somebody in college is going to be calling me, and I can redo what I just did with UConn. So, I mean, if I'm him, I'm on the side of you. It's like, man, I think I would stay where I'm most comfortable. I'm going to stay where I'm wanted, and I know that I'm successful, and I'm never going to be in jeopardy of losing my job. But, man, that carrot of NBA to be a head coach, and if you have success, man, you've set your tone now in the NBA, and now you could be in the NBA for life. I would take that opportunity.
Yeah, see, maybe it's more the way I think I would not. If I'm Dan Hurley, I'm going, man, I've got such a great job here at UConn. I can go down based on the program that he has built, which is a juggernaut. He could potentially go down with more success and be one of the best coaches in this decade of college basketball, in this era of college basketball, post Coach K, post some of those older coaches that recently just retired. I'm drawing a blank on his name at North Carolina, Roy Williams. Like, he could go down as the best coach post that era. And that is something to be in the record books for, as being one of the best coaches in college basketball in a decade or in an era. And the other thing, too, is Why the hell would I want to go coach an NBA team right now? One, I got to have Rob Pelinka build my roster, which he's not great at doing that. Two, I've got to go deal with LeBron, who's actually building the roster. And three,
he's really not good at it.
He's really not good at it. And three, as we've just seen across the NBA, once a player gets fed up with you, you are gone. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, who just got to, the Eastern Conference semifinals. Oh, Donovan Mitchell's upset. All right, that coach is gone. Just with a blink of the eye, he is gone. So why would I want that? When I've got great job security, I'm building my own roster, and I have set up the program in such a great direction that he could truly go down as one of the best coaches of this decade.
I do think Alex made a good point about why you would want to leave college for the NBA. Because you can do something that only one other man has ever done. And you could do it even potentially to a greater degree. You guys know how many coaches have gone? I guess I kind of gave you the answer to this.
One.
There's only been one other coach.
One.
Damn, I gave it away. It's like this trivia question.
Yeah,
I have the
I got
answer
it.
in the question. That's my bad.
BK game.
There's only been one other coach that has ever won a title in college basketball and went on to win a title in the NBA. His name is Larry Brown. He did it with SMU and then eventually with the Detroit Pistons.
Those Detroit Pistons teams.
It's been 20 years since we've somebody make this accomplishment on both levels, right? Larry Brown did it once at SMU, and he did it at the NBA with Detroit. You could see Dan Hurley potentially, if you believe that the Lakers are capable of it, and I'm skeptical, but whatever. Maybe he believes he could be the missing link. He won multiple titles in college basketball, and now could go to the NBA and potentially do something that nobody's ever done. Win multiple titles in college, and then another title in the NBA. It goes a long way, man. You look at your resume and you say to yourself, man, you can make a case. This guy is the best coach to ever do it. Because he did it at both levels. There was nothing left for him to accomplish. He did stuff nobody else could. And boom, there's your resume builder. And maybe Dan Hurley's just like, you know what? I don't want to deal with the recruiting anymore. I don't want to deal with the transfer portal anymore. NIL's the wild, wild west. Like, I just want to coach. And that is the benefit of being in the NBA is your job is exclusively, here are the players, now go coach them. Now, there's a lot of personality stuff that you have to deal with off of the court as well. A lot of drama when LeBron James is your star player, especially at the back end of his career. But I guess I could see how that would appeal. I still, dude, he's got a chance to three-peat this year. I'm not leaving that for the opportunity of coaching the Lakers. If the Celtics job opens up, all right, we could talk about that. If Oklahoma City opened up, yeah, I'd be interested in that. Denver, sure. I don't know if the Lakers is a great job right now.
I don't think it is, especially for the drama that is surrounding their two big players that both, to me, aren't the guys that lead you to a championship. But once again, man, if you're Dan Hurley, if you want an ideal position, it's going there to a team that has all of the money in the world to throw at players in free agency when you get to that point. Now, you don't have draft picks because you treat it like the Rams treat first-round picks. You just trade them away.
That's a LeBron thing.
That's a LeBron thing, which is understandable. But to T-Bone's point, like somebody else is building that roster, and LeBron, you have no say in that. It's LeBron's team. But I got to imagine if you're Dan Hurley and the Lakers are pursuing you, if you're him, you're going to put everything in writing to where it's like, yeah, I got a say in this also. Now, does it get done? Probably not, but if I'm going to go to the Lakers and I'm going to take my shot at the NBA, you're going to have some type of say in it.
By the way, I need to correct something that I said. I said that Larry Brown won the title at SMU. I don't know if you guys remember. He did not win a title at SMU.
I think it was with SMU.
He won it at Kansas and eventually coached at SMU. But
I was going to say, so there were zero guys that. No, he did win it. Way to go.
No, he did win the title at Kansas, did not win the title at SMU, did eventually win the title with the Detroit Pistons. So we got the right name, got the right guy, got the wrong team that he won it with. I apologize. I was looking at it and ended up misspeaking there. So I do apologize for that, but he did, however, win a title at both levels. That was the important part of the point there. Just misspoke on which team, of course, that he won it with. Important to get these things right. I will be very curious if Hurley decides, I'm going to take the $10 million a year, take the $100 million guaranteed, go coach the Lakers. Dude, I'm fascinated to see what UConn would do if he leaves. That's one of the best openings that we've ever seen in college basketball. This thing is like running itself. They've won, 4 titles now in the last 15 years with 3 different coaches. You could make an argument that that is the ideal program to coach right now. And I don't know who they would target. T-Bone brought up earlier today, hey, do you go call Shaka? Sure, I'd call him. I think you call Jay Wright and say, hey, are you willing to listen to this opportunity? It's not super far away from where you were coaching whenever you were at Villanova. You've been away from the game for a little bit. Maybe if you recharged your batteries. I think he tells you no, but you make the call. this is the kind of job where you can make those calls. But I thought Kentucky was that job as well, and they ended up hiring the BYU head coach who was an alum from Kentucky. So I don't know. I don't know the coaches are leaving their current jobs for blue blood programs the way that they once did. But that will be a fascinating story to watch develop, and T-Bone will certainly be watching as those dominoes start to fall.
Yeah, I'd get worried because unlike Mizzou, we don't have to worry about their coach getting hired elsewhere after an O and whatever in SEC
That's
play.
because he's committed to the zoo.
I'm very worried. I don't think Underwood would be a target for UConn, but I could see where the dominoes fall to where all of a sudden he sees another job opportunity.
Maybe you should find a coach that has commitment to his team and not just jump around for money.
Sure, whatever.
Maybe Coleman Hawkins is going to follow his coach to wherever their next team is, and that's why he entered the transfer portal, because he knew Brad Underwood wasn't going to be back
coming to
at
Mizzou.
Scott Drew goes to UConn.
Yeah, there you
Brad
go.
Underwood goes to Baylor.
Dude, that would be amazing. That is the job that I would be worried
T-Bone
about,
might
in all
cry.
seriousness.
Yeah,
Going back to Texas.
I would have to have a day off. I'd be crying.
He's Tanner. That's Alex on VK. Coming up next, questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK. How about this? Let's give you a chance right now to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for the Cardinals versus the Pirates. I'm making sure you guys get these on our show today. I would never miss an opportunity to give away our Bud Bash giveaway. It features a limited edition Jason Isringhausen bobblehead next week. Text in right now at 314-399-9646. And if you have the correct answer to the following question, your texture number 101, you're getting the tickets. Just a little bit ago, we mentioned that Larry Brown won a title at both the college and NBA level. In college, as everybody knows, he won it at Kansas.
Oh, sorry.
Who did he win his title with in the NBA? Larry Brown. Who did he win his title with in the NBA? If you know that answer and your texture number 101, you are getting the 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals versus the Pirates. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, as of today, what do you think the ceiling is for Alec Burleson as a hitter? That's an interesting question. 25 to 30 home runs, 280 hitter, and a slightly below average to average defender at first base.
Oh, why'd you say first base over there?
Why'd you say below average, man? Shots fired.
I think it could be average. That's probably about right.
You said below average. Probably stick to what you said. I would say probably around that. I was thinking like main thing, 25 to 30 home runs. And for how consistent he's been, we'll see what it looks like by the end of the season. But I like the 280 hitter and first baseman. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, I would agree. Probably 270, 280 hitter. I think 20 home runs is probably his ceiling. He could probably get a couple seasons where he gets above that and will be right around. I think his on base could be driven up a little bit higher than what it's at right now, 306 based on his average. But he's a free swinger, so I think he'll always be like a 750 to 780, 790 OPS guy, which will be like 20% above league average.
I'm trying to look through like what is the former first baseman that could
Lance
fit
Berkman.
into this criteria.
No.
Lucas Duda?
He hit for average? I thought he was a power guy.
That's oof.
Early on in his career, he had one season where he hit for average, and then he was more of a pure power hitter.
I think it's Matt. I mean, I hate to bring up the same guy we always reference. It feels like Matt Adams.
That's always who I think of with him.
That's who I would say.
That's probably the answer, because there's just not a lot of other examples of guys that hit for average plus a little bit of power. Most of them are like, they sell out for the power, and that's the way that they end up becoming who they were.
What would you think if I said he became problem is this guy hit for more average, hit like around 300 and hit 20 home runs and had an on base around 340?
Are you looking at Eric Hosmer?
No, I was looking at Alan Craig.
Were you looking at Eric Hosmer?
That was the guy that I was looking at, was Eric Hosmer.
Derek Lee.
I was looking at Alan Craig, looking at his numbers. Now, great. I think his on base was a lot higher.
In a heartbeat.
I don't know if he can be a left-handed version of Alan Craig. His 3 years were unbelievable.
What about Eric Hosmer? Guy that consistently hit around 20 home runs, ended up being like a 20% above league average-ish hitter, got on base about 35% of the time, consistently hit like 280-ish in his career.
I could see that. And I think the more work he'd get at first base, he could become maybe not as good as Hosmer was at first, but he could become a really solid defensive first baseman.
I could see something like that. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 217. Guys, what do you think you'd have a better chance of hitting? Kershaw's prime curveball or Helsley's 103 miles per hour fastball?
Neither.
Yeah, zero.
Helsley's
Zero
fastball. Just because it's not moving as much. Like a curveball, it's tough to time up because of the way it dips. If I had like 100 chances, I could make contact. Not hit it fair, but make contact with at least 100-mile-an-hour fastball. At some point, I could time it up a little bit.
Come on, man.
No, I could.
You need to calm down with this ego that you got over there.
No, I could.
By the way, happy anniversary of our home run derby, BK.
Ugh.
Popped up today on my memory bank.
Not a great memory.
I had
fun that night.
I had a great time. I hit the wall.
I had fun.
We know.
Top of it.
Garrity.
I knew what my expectations were going into that. I told Stalter, I want you to know ahead of time, I have not swung a bat in 20 years. And I wasn't kidding. That was not me exaggerating. I literally had not swung a bat in 20 years.
He literally lost his hold on the bat when he swung the first time, and it went into a parked car.
First of all, not true. Second of all, I connected more often than Alex, and that was my goal.
He did, but I hit the top of the wall, and BK hit the bottom of the
And I
wall.
was fine with that.
And I told them that they were going to get maybe 2 out of me, and they got 1 on the top of the wall.
And I slapped those balls all around the yard. They didn't go out, but they were. The contact was made.
The moral of the story is T-Bone needs to pump the brakes over there, thinking he can hit one of Ryan Helsley's fastballs.
I think I could seriously time one up. Not like, again, I'm not
you
saying
being
I'm hitting one.
serious?
No, I think I could make contact with the fastball.
This is the dude that said he could compete.
103-mile-per-hour
Yeah.
fastball.
This is the dude that
no chance.
This is the dude that said
but
he could
you
be
don't
an
have
Olympian.
No chance. I think I could time it up. At least make contact with it. I'm not saying get a hit or anything. I'm just saying make contact with it.
103.
I think you are.
Do you know how quickly that gets on you?
Yeah.
I think you
wouldn't
are
even
whiffing.
start swinging
No, I
before
would
the
be
ball
able
is
to
in the
touch that
catcher's net.
fastball. I could
You're
touch
insane.
that fastball.
No chance.
You're insane.
Yes.
No chance.
I would put my house mortgage on that you don't make contact on one.
You have this like.
You were uppercutting every
Hey,
one of them.
I was a college athlete. I could touch
You
that
played
103
tennis in
mile an hour
college,
fastball.
man.
That's no college
You
athlete.
played tennis in college,
No.
man.
You should be proud of your collegiate tennis career. I'm not putting it down.
more than I've ever
That is
done.
very different than hitting
Certainly sounded like
103
putting it
miles per
down.
hour against Ryan Helsley.
You are going to be uppercutting at things like you're a
Dude,
samurai.
have you ever gone to? It's a little
yeah,
different
the
because
batting
there's a
cages that
delivery.
come at you
Where the
25 miles an hour?
No, but you can turn them up to like I've
to
timed at
100.
90. I've touched 90. I can touch 103.
Get the hell out of here.
Dude, the batting average for major leaguers.
Oh, come on,
once you
my
get
father
to
just texted me and
95.
said no chance. Why does he know
No
that?
chance, dude.
Where is the family support?
Where does
There is
this
no
irrational
chance.
confidence come from? You think you can beat professional ping pong players
Easily.
that go over to the
Now
Olympics?
that one I feel pretty confident in.
Oh my God.
This one I just think I can. I think I could get a foul tick of a fastball.
No.
I didn't say a hit. I said a just make it.
You could go up
contact.
there with an 8x10 piece of wood and you won't make
I
contact.
just don't
I
understand
think
where
I
the
can.
irrational confidence
There's not
comes
as much
from.
movement on,
Hey, man, I
you
respect
can time
the
up,
confidence.
You can time up 103. I cannot touch a Kershaw curveball because the ball is moving so much.
I respect the confidence. I just think you're insane.
My fear is that I would make contact and then Helsley would drill me. That's my fear.
Do you why? Because he's very offended by you making contact on one of his pitches?
He should be if I
Do you
did.
walk into a blind
I
date and
actually
say,
agree with that.
Yeah, see?
You should be offended.
do
if
you
make
walk into a
contact.
blind date and be like, "Hi, I'm T-Bone. Actually, I look like George Clooney."
Not that confident, but you got to bring confidence to the first date.
I respect that out of you, T-Bone. Eventually, we're going to have a T-Bone dating game on this show.
I love
the
that his dad
irrational
texted him.
confidence that will exist in that game for Tanner.
Yeah, what
will
the
be
hell?
Something worth
You're
monitoring.
confident you can hit Ryan Helsley's fastball, but you don't want to do a dating show on on our show.
Dating 5 times tougher than hitting a Helsley fastball.
Oh my God. He's Tanner. That's Alex on
Good
BK.
God, man.
Coming up next, what would it change for the Cardinals if the last 5 starts for Miles Mikolas become the norm for Miles Mikolas? Talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
He's been commanding the baseball really well. He's been at the bottom a lot more. His mix has been good. He's made some small adjustments, but for the most part, man, he's just in control of every at-bat. There's a purpose behind what he's throwing, and it's looked really good. Yeah.
Well, good. He was real aggressive on the inside, coming inside.
He was, and that's important to him for him to have success, and he's been able to command that a lot better.
That was Oli Marmol yesterday talking about his starter, Miles Mikolas, who gave them 6 strong innings, gave up just 2 earned runs in that one. And Alex, he has given them at least 5 innings and given up 3 or fewer runs in each of his past 5 starts, 4 of those in the form of a quality start. Overall, 29 innings in those 5 starts with a 3.7 ERA. Opposing hitters are batting just .212 against him in those 5 starts, and it's very clear what has changed for him. His sinker's finally working the way that he wanted it to. Opposing hitters are batting just .059 against his sinker in this stretch of 5 games. They were batting .290 against it previously, prior to this 5-game stretch. Now, this is unsustainable. He's not going to be able to get an .059 batting average against the rest of the year. But hopefully he's able to do with his other pitches what he has done with his sinker, which is to find his groove. Alex, if this becomes the norm, and I'm curious, the text line 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. If Mikolas the rest of the year can just consistently give you 6 innings, and he does so in the way where you've got like a mid-3s ERA. So some days he's giving you 6 innings, 2 earned runs, but generally speaking, he's not blowing up. And you're getting the innings out of him kind of like you expected coming into the year. What does that do for this team? How much does that change your outlook, in my opinion, if basically you have him and Kyle Gibson pitching the way that Gibson has all year long?
I mean, it strengthens your rotation. I don't even in that scenario, I don't know if he would be considered a number 2, but it definitely puts you in a position where 3 guys that are going out there that are giving you innings, that are keeping you in baseball games, that's how you win more and more series, because even Lance Lynn's not a person that you look at and expect the whole thing to blow up in your face. I mean, it answers one of the questions that we have of the team. I don't think I'm going to be sitting here screaming, don't go trade for somebody now in your rotation. You would still need an upgrade. But if that's the Miles Mikolas you're getting, at least you have a 1-2 punch that's better than what it was in the first month of the season. Call me skeptical, call me Debbie Downer. I'm not buying into this. Last year, this is what we did also. All the way up to June 4th, he had a 2.24 ERA. And then guess what happened the rest of the season? Finished with like a 5.5 ERA. So call me skeptical that this is the Miles Mikolas. I think this is a trend we've seen from him where he gets it right and it works. And then it's like, we got a number 2. And then it looks like a number 2 the rest of the season, not the good kind. But if you get it, it does change the way you're viewing this team because you have a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, and I would argue even like how he's pitching now is not a number 2. Like
a 3.
Yeah, he's a 3 because a 2's got swing and miss stuff, and he doesn't have swing and miss stuff. Now, granted, he did strike out 5 and 6 in his 2 previous starts before yesterday, but yeah, they can win with this. I mean, I somewhat disagree with the decision to pull him last night after 6 innings at 62 pitches, but it is the formula. You know, it's the formula that they've been saying since the offseason began. Whether it is what you believe in what Mo said, which is these guys post every day, which Mikolas has done so far this year, or they go 6 innings, they give you a quality start, and you can turn things over to the bullpen. So if he's able to go 6 innings and I don't even want to put a run number on it, just keep you in the ball game, then yeah, the Cardinals are able to sustain this from Miles Mikolas. They can win these type of starts from him. It's the one where you'd have the blow-up inning in like the first or the second inning where it is, okay, we can't do this because we have to quickly get him out of the game. If he's able to just kind of poke and prod his way and pick the corners and work his way through 6 innings and keep your team in the ballgame, yeah, that's the formula for success for the St. Louis Cardinals. That's the same formula for Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn. So if he can pitch like this, yeah, they can make this work. Long as you just, to Alex's point, you view him as what he is, which is a number 3 starter when he's right and a number 5 when he's on the down end.
All right, I'm going to start talking about the playoff stuff before we get to kind of like the regular season, okay? If you went into the playoffs and you had Sonny Gray as your number 1, you had Mikolas as your 3, Gibson as your 4, and you traded for somebody that legitimately profiles as a number 2, that could be a playoff rotation. Like you could look at that, and I don't feel great about Mikolas as a 3. I don't feel great about Gibson as a 4, but it works. Like you could see how that formula could work.
If you get yourself a legit 2, I don't care about my 3-4. Because you have 2 guys that are going to win you a game, which I think is important.
Here's win with worse.
Yeah.
Fair. Here's what I would counter to that, to your point there of if you had Mikolas as a 3. I think that Mikolas, Gibson, Lynn should be all 4s, and one of them can get that start.
Sure, but I think you could make it through.
In the scenario that BK is painting, though, I think you're good.
This is where my concern is when I look at the last couple of teams that got to the World Series, their 3 had an upside. And I just don't know if Mikolas has the same upside as like a Ranger Suarez had 2 years ago when the Phillies got there.
Well, Kyle Gibson's got an upside. We've never seen him in the playoffs before.
What Brandon, gosh, that was well done. What Brandon Pfaadt had last year, and I understand Pfaadt is like a 4, but there's upside to where when he pitches well, he can pitch almost like a 2. That's where I would kind of disagree with having the idea of Mikolas or Gibson or Lynn as a 3-starter.
Let's just let BK dream a little bit here, T-Bone.
So the reason why I bring this up is because you look at that as your top 4, and then what it allows you to do is move bullpen guys or move other rotation guys to your bullpen. So you've got Lynn and Matz now that can eat innings for you out of the bullpen. You've got, and not like a lot of them, but you can have a 2-inning burst out of those 2 guys, for example. Libby, JoJo, King from the left side, Helsley, Kittredge, Fernandez from the right side. That looks like a playoff bullpen, and you add one more guy at the deadline, probably a right-handed fire-breathing dragon, and boom, okay, I could see how that works. But it is all predetermined. The prerequisite for all of that is that what we've seen from Mikolas is real. And this goes back to your point, Alex. I don't trust it. I do not trust this because he relies so much right now on pitching to contact that, much like Andre Palante, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I feel like it is always going to happen. And I think the manager agrees with me because he doesn't go to his bullpen last night if Miles Mikolas has any kind of legitimate swing and miss stuff.
Yeah, because Sonny Gray and Kyle Gibson, even somewhat of a Lance Lynn, still pitching in that next inning.
I don't know if you trust Lynn because we've seen him get into so much traffic and so many bad spots, but Gibson, absolutely. Yeah. I think he stays in that game last night.
Agreed.
I think Sonny Gray, if Sonny says he wants to
Sonny's
stay in the
say
game,
he wants to be,
stays in that game last night. And that's the difference. And that's why he's probably a 3/4. Most likely, T-Bone, you're right. He's probably a number 4 at this point in his career. They can win during the regular season with this guy if he continues to play this way. Just don't trust him to be able to continue to pitch this way, and it's what makes everything feel so fragile. If you're the Cardinals, your retort would be, yeah, but every team in our position right now that's fighting for these wild card spots has a similar kind of issue, whether it's in their rotation, in their bullpen, a part of their offense, whatever it is. Like, everybody's got something about their team that we feel about the Cardinals, that they're waiting and saying, that's going to break eventually. So they're right on that, but it's just not a super fun style of baseball to watch, and it's a scary brand of baseball to build around long term. But at least we're not White Sox fans, Alex.
Amen. Well, they did beat us 2-3.
It could always be worse. I don't know if you saw what happened last night, but the White Sox got walked off. Their play-by-play guy is a lunatic. I don't know if you guys have heard him at all.
I heard him when Tom McPham was, boxing out there on the field.
This guy's nuts, man. So yesterday, he lost his mind as the Cubs walk it off with the walk-off home run. And then after the game, of course, they've got Ozzie Guillen, who is just somebody that will always bring a level-headed analysis to the table. He was talking after the game last night on their post-game show about what it's like to be a White Sox fan right now. Guys, he's going through it.
Okay, people have to understand, okay? We're just not a pre-game, post-game analyst or whatever. Unfortunately, I'm a White Sox fan. I am. Everything I have in my life, my kids' career, everything I have, is because of the White Sox. I earn it. Mm-hmm. I earn it every second.
But your blood.
Get upset, I get happy, whatever it is. It just, that hurt. And it's a funny thing about, I can pay to get hurt. Some people pay to get hurt.
Whoa. At that point, the TV producer's going, oh, bleep, where's this going? Somebody cut Ozzie! Somebody cut Ozzie!
I do think he speaks for fans there, though. Like, what he's saying there at the end, people are paying their hard-earned money to go watch this bleeping team in Chicago right now. Now, not many of them. It's you and a dozen of your best friends. But this is the thing about sports that is always so tough, and so many of you guys on our text line that just live and die with the Cardinals every single night. And it's why you have such passionate responses when the team is currently stuck in the in-between stages of their life cycle. But you hear that? That's what it's like to really go through it with a rebuild.
I thought he was saying, like, you could go pay for better things to get hurt rather than this, is what the way it felt like he was saying.
He was saying, I am paid to be a broadcaster, to watch these games and to give you my analysis afterwards. And it hurts me to watch these games and give you my analysis afterward, because he is truly a fan of the Chicago White Sox. Dude, this team has lost, I think it's 15 in a row now.
Yeah, something like that.
They have not won a game since May 21st. And before that, you have to go back to May 15th. They have won one game in the last 3 weeks. It's brutal and getting worse because they're going to continue selling off all of their spare parts. Their manager yesterday said, "I'm proud of my guys." They lost.
Wow, that was like 2 weeks after he said like they just didn't effing show up.
I didn't know
so.
Mike Schilt was their manager.
Dude,
I feel
going
bad for
through a
Ozzy.
full-blown rebuild sounds really good in theory, and then you actually go through it. It ain't great, boys. It ain't great.
I feel bad for Ozzy. You know that Ryan Stork's going to fire him after that comment.
Oh yeah, he's gone, and then he is
That's a
going to have to
shame.
pay to get hurt.
Yeah.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm VK. Coming up next, I found a segment that we could get to based upon something that I heard on the balloon party, Alex. I will give Jackson a lot of credit for this because he came up with a question. I want to get your thoughts on it. Which team winning the cup would be better for the growth of the NHL? I've got some thoughts on this. I know Alex does as well, and I think T-Bone disagrees with us, and we'll get to it next year on 101 ESPN. I got to give a lot of credit to the balloon party. Jackson Burkett came up with a really good topic today, I thought, in the open of their show.
Oh, we talking NBA again?
Nope, NHL. They were talking hockey. Yeah.
And Jackson brought the topic to the table?
100%. And I
Ladies
thought
and
it was
gentlemen.
a good one. Now, to be fair, he opened up with a Cardinals topic that Tim's response was, I've answered that question 7 times in the last 3 weeks, and I really don't want to talk about it again.
Bless it, Tim. I love it.
But then he immediately transitioned like a true professional and said, Tim, which team winning the Stanley Cup this year is better for the growth of the NHL? I like the question, Alex. I want to get your thoughts on it. I also want to hear from the text line at 314-399-9646 on this. The Panthers versus the Oilers is an interesting matchup. It's an intriguing matchup. You've got arguably the greatest player in the NHL, the greatest player potentially of this generation with Connor McDavid playing for the Oilers, going up against the Florida Panthers, a non-traditional NHL market with an American-born star in Matthew Tkachuk leading their roster, a guy that has been front and center in the media, going on the Pat McAfee show seemingly weekly over the last few weeks. And that's why I think the Panthers are the correct answer to this. If we're just talking about the growth of the game, man, the Oilers winning the Cup don't grow the game. Canada has already bought hook, line, and sinker into the idea of hockey being the greatest sport in the world. You ain't growing the game of hockey in Canada any more than you already have. Connor McDavid being in the Stanley Cup final is what this league wanted. Matthew Tkachuk becoming the next face of the NHL is the best case scenario. Because for all the great things that Connor McDavid does on the ice, he's not particularly interesting off of it. Matthew Tkachuk is. That guy will give you a great quote. He is fantastic to be able to spread the growth of the game in terms of going on traditional media outlets that otherwise would be talking about the NBA or the NFL or, very rarely, Major League Baseball. Tkachuk is the guy that, in my opinion, the NHL should be hitching its wagon to, and that is a team that can become something that goes on a big-time run over the next 3 to 5 years. So for me, the answer is definitively the Panthers winning the Cup would be the best-case scenario for the league to grow the game more.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
I agree. If you're growing financially, it'd be the Oilers because that's where all the money's going to be with McDavid. But if you're trying to grow this league in terms of interest with it, but if you're also trying to grow the league in terms of more competitive teams, the Florida Panthers are the perfect team to look at because they're a team that was patient, had to draft and develop as they went through a rebuild, but they also were aggressive when they needed to, when they knew that they were ready to win. They were aggressive to go trade for Matthew Tkachuk. They were aggressive to trade for Sam Reinhart. They were aggressive in every aspect of their roster to put it together, and they play hockey differently than 31 other teams do. They still play the heavy physical brand of hockey that I think if you're looking at growing the NHL, one, there's excitement with how that team plays because a lot of younger kids see that and they're like, oh man, that's different than what we see with Connor McDavid making highlight reel plays. But it's also if general managers and other teams, if you're a fan of a team is watching that, like let's take Columbus Blue Jackets, for example. If you're watching the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup, you finally look at it and say, maybe we don't have success drafting in the top 5 as many times as we do because we're not going to find our Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Maybe we need to focus more on what the Florida Panthers have done in terms of be aggressive when there's a big player out there to trade for him or sign via free agency. Just looking at how long it took the Edmonton Oilers to get there, I don't think that's good for any team in the National Hockey League. The last time they were in a Stanley Cup final was 2006. That means from 2006 until 2016, 10 years, they drafted in the top 10 8 times. And they failed on 4 different number 1 overall picks until they finally got to Connor McDavid. That is not a recipe for other teams to grow the game of the NHL.
See, I think the Oilers are the one that can grow the game because when you have a sport that has this generation's Wayne Gretzky. Now, it is funny that he's playing for the same team that Gretzky played for in Connor McDavid. If he can win a Stanley Cup, it grows the game. And his style of play, in my opinion, 5 times more exciting than Matthew Tkachuk's. And I enjoy Matthew Tkachuk's style of play, but he plays a more physical, grinded-out style of hockey. Connor McDavid is the highlight reel. That's why he has the nickname McJesus. It's because he can do the unbelievable. So him winning a Stanley Cup with that style of play as the best player in the sport and being the guy that's the best player since Wayne Gretzky, in my opinion, Yeah, I think that is best for the Stanley Cup and for the National Hockey League and for them to have continued growth, because when you have conversations of your superstars, your best players not being in a World Series or being at the NFL championship, you know what you lose? You lose some of that luster. And that's what's happened to baseball. Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, you know what you haven't seen yet? Them in the postseason. So I think the best thing for the NHL is if McDavid can win a Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers. And I understand that's a Canadian team, but I think that is what best grows the game of hockey.
Do you think so? I guess the real question is here, like, hockey fans are going to watch no matter what.
Yeah.
Hockey fans are in. They're already, like, and this is a really compelling match. Like, the Oilers going up against the Panthers, if you're a hockey fan at all, you're in on this. It's about the casual sports observer that might be pulled in underneath the tent because of one of these teams winning or because of one of these teams becoming more prominent nationally. And have you ever heard Connor McDavid say anything interesting?
No.
No, but I've seen all of his highlight reels.
He's Mike Trout. He's not interesting. He is boring.
I don't see Tkachuk highlights. If I'm scrolling through social media and if I'm just a casual hockey fan, I'm not seeing a Tkachuk play. I'm seeing Connor McDavid walk around two players and score a power play goal in the game-clinching win that sent them to the Stanley Cup final.
You see Tkachuk highlights in different veins. McDavid's going to have those highlights every day of the week, but you don't see McDavid laying a big hit in front of the net. You don't see McDavid.
I don't think people care about that as much anymore. This is in the 80s. You know, I think when you look at the big...
It's an interesting point.
When you look at what the NHL is, who are the guys that we're talking about as superstars? It's not Tkachuk who's hitting everybody. Like, he is a superstar in a different way. It's McDavid who's skating around. It's Austin Matthews scoring 70 goals. People love offense. And Matthew Tkachuk brings offense. It's 82-point offense. It's not 132 points, 153
points
points.
last year, but
Did you enjoy any of the Tampa Bay Lightning Cups that they won?
I didn't think they were all that compelling.
Because I
know
think
they were a dynasty and that, like, it's impressive.
they were amazing.
But the reason I'm asking that is they had players
It wasn't showmanship.
They had players that resembled how the Oilers won or getting to the Stanley Cup right now, because Kucherov was making highlight reel plays. You had Braden Point, you had Stamkos, and
but not like, to be fair, not like Connor
McDavid. But what I'm saying is,
I feel like they were more like Florida.
No, I don't think you've seen a team play like Florida since the Blues won the Stanley Cup. In terms of you
don't think Tampa was more resembling of that? I think Tampa was much closer to Florida than they are.
I don't think Tampa was punishing to play against. I think Tampa was punishing to play against in terms of you couldn't get the puck off their stick, but they weren't punishing to play against that when you went into a corner, you knew you're going to have to pay for it. And that's where Florida is. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is I agree. Like, McDavid and Draisaitl are always going to bring in the highlight reels because they're basically Ovechkin and Crosby on the same team. That's always exciting. But I think the style of hockey that Florida Panthers play, you don't see it in the Stanley Cup final very often, because typically the teams that play like that, they wear down at some point. And I heard Chris Pronger on a podcast talking about this. Like, typically the teams that play like the Florida Panthers are too injured to make it to the Stanley Cup final. And that's why I think they're so compelling. And at the end of it, if they don't win the Stanley Cup, you're not going to remember what the Florida Panthers did. But I think if they do win, there's going to be a lot of people that draw into what they accomplished.
I think the hockey fans are the ones that look at the Panthers as intriguing. I think the casual fan, like...
Oh, yeah, casual fan is all about McDavid.
It's all about McDavid, because that's the only thing. You don't see the highlight reel of the Florida Panthers. You see the highlight reel of Connor McDavid. Not even the Edmonton Oilers, of Connor McDavid. And that's where I think the conversation goes to, how do you grow the game? Well, it's the casual fan. Well, who's the casual fan going to watch? They might watch Tkachuk because he's been on Pat McAfee and he does have a personality. But they're probably going to see a highlight reel play from McDavid more so than they are from the Florida Panthers as a whole with Matthew Tkachuk.
I do think there is value for growing the game in America that you have an American-born superstar on the Panthers. That, to me, would be the biggest point in their favor. This entire conversation, though, makes me wonder, this is the Stanley Cup matchup most likely to appeal to a casual sports observer, not just a casual hockey observer, since blank. What is the answer to that? Because, I mean, I think T-Bone is right. Like, I would argue in favor of the Panthers. His argument kind of made me wonder if I'm wrong on that. And I was definitive beforehand. But the McDavid highlight thing is interesting because that's how a lot of young people are watching sports now, is they'll go through their Instagram or TikTok and just see the highlights more so than they will, like, the entire 60 minutes of a hockey game or the entire 9 innings of a baseball game. Like, you're more likely to get a young person that has watched the pitching ninja highlights of a pitcher than has actually watched them pitch an entire inning. Like Paul Skeens is going to be a superstar among young people because he's just going to be highlighted on Pitching Ninja every single time that he pitches every 5th day. So I bring that up to ask, like, this is a really good matchup for casual observers. Can you remember one, Alex, in recent memory that had this kind of appeal to a casual hockey fan?
No, not real. I mean, it sounds homerish, but I feel like the Blues one was.
No chance.
I feel like it was because the narrative around it was a team that was so bad that's making a run.
But they didn't have the players that would have.
No, they didn't have the players, but it was a series that you were locked into because it was Boston, the best team in the league, versus a team that nobody knew about. But I
don't think a casual sports observer, other than like here in St. Louis, obviously it appeals. I don't know, a casual sports fan from Los Angeles wasn't exactly like locked in because the St. Louis Blues were
They didn't have a like. Vladdy was a superstar, but at that point he was at the back end of being a superstar. So it wasn't like
I think
in
the
his
superstars
prime.
were on the other side, and that's why people were locked in
So
on
then
that.
you don't care about
He
the
was the
Blues.
national like superstar on Boston at that point.
I mean, Pasternak was one of the best players in the game at that time.
Agreed. Did he have the national appeal of Connor McDavid?
Nobody has the
or
national appeal
or
of Connor
Matthew
McDavid.
Tkachuk?
I think he had close to what the appeal of what Tkachuk was at the time for how many goals he had
I
scored.
do
But
not feel that way.
yeah, I mean, at the time it felt like it, and like I said, national view, it was
Capitals versus Knights?
no.
No, I don't think so either.
Ovechkin was washed up by then. Not washed up, but Ovechkin wasn't the same type of guy until he won the cup, and then it felt like he kind of took it to the next level.
I don't think
Probably something with Crosby. It's probably Pittsburgh and Detroit.
even then I don't know if they had that kind of.
I mean, the hard part is to judge it off of casual fans, because not a lot of casual fans even tune into hockey. It's mostly casual hockey fans that tune in.
I'm with you, but this one feels like it has the most, the greatest likelihood of doing that.
I'd argue
I don't even know.
I don't think it's like us talking about baseball, right? Like, would it be great for baseball to have Mike Trout in the playoffs? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But would it actually bring people in? Dude, if the Dodgers aren't bringing people in, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like, the Dodgers have collected all of the superstars. If that ain't doing it for the casual observer of sports, then it's just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing might be true for hockey, but this has the greatest chance, in my opinion, to do it. And maybe this is me falling into the Matthew Tkachuk trap because he's from here. But, dude, Pat McAfee knows what hits with people. And the reason why I know that is because he was all in on Colorado. He was at the CU football games last year, and that resonated with people. And Matthew Tkachuk is on that bleeping show every other day.
I do think we're underestimating how many kids, not just here, but kids in hockey, like, look at the Matthew Tkachuk highlights. Now, he hasn't had as many highlight reel plays like Connor McDavid. There's no question with that. But people do look at Matthew Tkachuk because he is such a unicorn. That's why I think the national appeal is on this matchup. But I just, if we're just talking about the casual sport fan, I don't think if just a casual person's going to tune into a hockey game no matter what.
I feel like a casual National Hockey League fan. I'm a diehard Blues fan. I can't tell you the last Tkachuk highlight I saw. Because I scrolled through Twitter, I scrolled through Instagram. I can't tell you the last time I saw
last
Tkachuk
year
highlight.
in the playoffs, I remember seeing a lot of them. This year,
Not
his
as
game
much.
has been different.
But he's played differently, yeah.
And to be fair, it's worked.
Yeah.
Like, it has also prevented him from getting hurt the way that he did last year in the playoffs, which ultimately led to them losing in the Stanley Cup Finals. So I do wonder if there's some of that, of him saying, I've got to be smarter with the way that I'm playing. I've got to be able to last through the entirety of this postseason run. And I do think that's something that happens sometimes as guys get through a playoff run. And it's why I think that they're going to win this thing is teams that are battle tested, that have been close, that almost can taste it. I like that team when they get back to this point. And they're the team that's been able to do that.
I do really wonder, to T-Bone's point of Edmonton being the team that grows the game of hockey, what's the narrative if they get swept? And I realistically, for Edmonton, if they don't win a game in this series, and that's something that I do think is a realistic possibility, because it's going to sound bad, but I feel like Edmonton was kind of gifted to get to this point. They didn't go through the gauntlet that Florida did. And if you don't have a competitive series in a Stanley Cup final on the biggest stage, I wonder if the tone changes a little bit.
I do wonder, too, to that point of, for the the diehard NHL fan, I wonder if it is better if Edmonton wins. Because I think Florida is just kind of the vanilla formula. What do? You dump the puck in, you go out, you go play physical brand of hockey. It's, to your point, dated back to the St. Louis Blues in 2019. We've never seen a team, in my opinion, that's like the Edmonton Oilers.
Not recently.
Not recently. That's this top-heavy, that has a McDavid, that has a Draisaitl, that have just unbelievable speed that can change the game. We talk about left-handed bats in the playoffs changing the game in baseball. McDavid and Draisaitl can change a hockey game like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what Colorado was when they won it. But they were more like, because Edmonton's got two guys.
Makar was their guy.
Yeah, Edmonton's got two guys. Colorado had McKinnon and Makar, and even at the time, Landeskog was still at his best.
Rantanen was really good
I mean,
for that
you
team
had
as well.
that was like the super team. That was like the super team.
Supporting cast that you got as well.
Yeah.
I think Edmonton is one of those teams that can potentially bring people under the umbrella.
I think I'm rooting for the Oilers now. I don't know how
it's
I got
a really
here.
compelling matchup.
Probably
It's one of
because
the
I
better
took the
ones
other
that we've
angle.
had in a really long time, given the number of stars that are in this. I think sometimes because we're hockey fans here in St. Louis, or because we're Blues fans and we see these guys more, I think we overstate the casual sports fans' recognition of some of the names that we just take as being like gospel, right? Like somebody on the text line said, you guys don't think that Patrice Bergeron was a superstar back when the Blues played against Boston? No, I don't. I don't think your casual sports fan, if I said, hey, Patrice Bergeron, who is he? What does he do? A casual sports fan that doesn't watch a lot of hockey probably couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Because he's excellent. He's amazing. He's a Hall of Famer probably. I don't think that the casual sports fan cares or knew.
He was a superstar, but you're not a superstar on the level of, like, Connor McDavid is like Crosby-esque. Like that, nobody in the league is that level.
Bergeron never showed up in like your national graphics.
Yeah, Bergeron was never on that. Like, he was a superstar in the game. Like a casual, anybody who just watches hockey knows the name. But if you're just a casual fan, nobody touches the surface of McDavid because that's Sidney Crosby level.
Bergeron was the equivalent of an elite left tackle.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a football fan, you definitely know the guy and you understand his value. Like Trent Williams, left tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. One of the most important players on that team. My wife has no idea who Trent Williams is. And that's okay. She doesn't need to know who he is. You know who she does know? Christian McCaffrey. She's familiar with his game. And that is the equivalent of Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's fun. He's exciting. He puts up all the points. He's super flashy with his highlights. Like, it's going to be a fun, really fun Stanley Cup Finals. It begins this weekend. You'll be able to hear Game 1 right here on 101 ESPN on Saturday starting at 6:30. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Shout out to Jackson for coming up with that topic. Coming up next, can the Cardinals follow the model of building around superstars, or did they already miss their chance to be able to do that? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends at Rhino Shield to update the exterior of your home, of your business. This time of the year is when the exterior takes a beating, whether this hot sun beating down on it and the UV rays deteriorating it, or you get all of the rainfall that we've had and the water damage, the staining on the side of your house. It needs a new look. And you could paint it yourself. You can go to the hardware store and just buy paint and do it, but you're going to be doing it again and again and again. That's why you need to use Rhino Shield, because what they use is not just paint. It's a ceramic coating mixture that sticks 8 to 10 times thicker than any other paint that you're going to buy. And it sticks to whatever type of siding you have, asbestos, metal, block, brick, decks, whatever it is, they can take care of all of it. I used Rhino Shield 3 years ago. My house looks brand new, just like it did when they did the job from Rhino Shield. So give them a call today. Tell Darren Alex Ferrario sent you, and he'll come on. He'll give you a quote. He'll tell you what they can do, and you'll fall in love with the work that Rhino Shield can work on your home. 877-25-RHINO. That's 877-25-RHINO.com.
Terry Hendricks Near Day Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals avoid the sweep yesterday by beating the Astros 4-2. They're back in action tonight as they start a 4-game set with the Colorado Rockies. 6:45 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray will be on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30. And then on Saturday night, we'll have Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers with pregame at 6:30. The Sports Update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Hey, with Alex and T-Bone on BK. So earlier today, I was listening to Adrian Wojnarowski. He was on with Undisputed. Not Undisputed. It's the morning show on ESPN Radio again. Sports and damn it.
You can hear it here on 101 ESPN.
My bad. That's a bad job by me.
Almost nailed it.
Former 101 ESPN host Michelle Smallman on it.
They do a good job. And they were talking to Adrian Wojnarowski on their show.
What's it called?
Unspoken.
Nope. Unwritten. Natasha Bedingfield. Unforgettable.
He was on there, and they were talking about, why is it that the Lakers would be targeting a college coach in Dan Hurley to be their next head coach? And Alex, the reason why, according to him, was, well, they know they can get the stars. They've already got LeBron. They've got AD. They believe that in the future, in perpetuity, stars will want to come to Los Angeles to play for the Lakers. They've never been wrong about that. It was the case for Shaquille O'Neal, ended up being the case for LeBron, AD, etc. They can get stars there. But what they need to do is develop the players at the back end of their bench that can eventually become really solid contributors. Because the NBA has gone to a new model where they have these taxpayer increments, Alex, and with what the Lakers are spending on their roster, there are a lot of limitations on what you can do. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, but it's harder now than it ever has been before to continue adding those supplemental pieces to a star-driven team. So they need a guy like Dan Hurley to come in and develop the players that they draft. The same thing is true. We see this in the NHL. Colorado Avalanche, what is their philosophy? We've got the stars. We'll figure out the supporting cast around them. They did this a couple of years ago at the trade deadline where they brought in their bottom 6 forwards basically at the deadline.
Yeah, the whole line.
And they won the cup because of it.
Yeah.
We've seen this with Vegas. Their philosophy is we've got the stars. We're going to put one of them on LTIR for the entirety of the season.
And then we'll go get another star.
And then we'll go get a bunch of supplementary pieces. Alex, I wonder if this is also the case now in baseball. I don't think it used to be. I think there was a long time where it was, hey, just get a bunch of really good players. And even if you don't have the superstar, you can win with that. The 2015 Royals were an example of that. I think to a degree, the 2013 Cardinals were kind of an example of that. Just a lot of really, really, really good players. Maybe no elite level superstar on that team, though. Well, now you're seeing the Dodgers and the way they're building, the Phillies the way they're building, the Braves the way they're building, the Yankees the way they're building. They're building around superstars and believing that eventually the supplemental pieces will emerge. Alex, if that is now the model, again in Major League Baseball, can the Cardinals follow it, or did they miss their opportunity when they had Goldie and Arenado in their prime?
Yeah, I fall on that leg of it. You missed your chance. Now you've got the supplementary pieces that can get you there. You don't have the stars anymore. And it's very hard to find stars, especially if you're the Cardinals that are unwilling to pay those stars or trade for those stars. And if you trade for those stars, well, now you're losing those supplementary pieces. It felt like they missed their call on one angle, and it's not, some of it's to their fault in terms of not being aggressive enough, but the other side is it's not to their fault because the guys that were here now weren't ready for that opportunity in 2021 like they are today. I think it's a model you can follow. I don't think the Cardinals can follow it because you're going to be chasing your tail more times than not when you've got your supplementary pieces and now you got to go get the stars. But to get the stars, you're going to have to give up the supplementary pieces, and you're stuck in between right now.
I actually think they can follow the model still. Problem is they've got to restart the model. They missed the opportunity with the model because they had two of them. They had Arenado. They had Goldie, who finished top 3 in MVP voting on top of a 40-year-old who found the fountain of youth and Albert Pujols for a season, and they missed. Why? Because they didn't have enough pitching, which was obvious from what we were seeing and what we said all along in 2022. But they followed the model correctly. They went out, they got the superstars. I think for the most part they had some complementary pieces. They just never got the superstar for the pitching side, and that's where I think they really missed. Were they completely in this model? No, they were missing one piece of it. I think what you're seeing across baseball now is not only do you have to have the stars, the superstars, you got to have one in the rotation. Look at some of the teams that have won a World Series recently. Think about how the Dodgers are built. They've got like a Tyler Glasnow, who I would say is a superstar on the pitching side in baseball. Same for the Phillies. Zach Wheeler is a star when you look at that rotation for Philadelphia. For the Diamondbacks, Zach Gallen, star, a guy that could win a Cy Young at some point. So I think Cardinals missed their opportunity, but I think they can repeat this formula. You know, when we talk about how they acquired Goldie and Arenado, is it tougher to wait on some of these guys to fall into your lap like those two did? Yeah, but they can go do it. They've done it before. So I think they can repeat the formula. It's just a matter of they've got to be able to get 2 superstars on the position player side, whether that's acquiring them, signing them, developing them, if that's Jordan Walker, for example. But you got to also supplement it with a star pitcher. And they've got that right now in Sonny Gray. Problem is they've reached the end of Goldie and Arenado being star level.
Yeah, this is what the Padres have tried to do. Now, they can't get the connective tissue because they keep trading it away for more stars, and they just keep recycling this thing over and over and over again. Jill.
Sorry.
And now they're at a place where they're going to continue to try this with Garrett Crochet, a great pitcher. Eventually, the Padres are going to need the depth. Like that's something that gets tested over 162, and they've got so much star power, but they don't have the depth to be able to get them into the postseason where those stars can really get them through October. I am curious, though, when you look at the NL Central, and I was listening to MLB Network Radio a little bit earlier today, and Eduardo Perez was talking about the Pirates and mentioning how they're one of the most exciting teams in baseball. I wanted you to hear this, Alex. Who is the team best situated to follow this path? Here's Eduardo Perez on why it might be the Pirates.
This is the beginning, and the excitement is there every 5th day. People seeing Skeens. The cool part about it, you make a weekend trip out of it. You get Jones pitching in front of Skeens back-to-back days. This is, they have to capitalize on this. I think this is their moment.
It's wild that he said that because I just saw on Foul Territory a little bit ago, Ken Rosenthal was on there, and he was talking about how this trade deadline is the opportunity for the Pirates to pounce when they have all of these complementary pieces. They need to go get a superstar. Now, I don't know who he said that was, but that was the tagline with it. I don't know if it's the Pirates. I don't know if it's the Cincinnati Reds. Frankly, for a little bit, it felt like the Arizona Diamondbacks were going to be that team where they had all the pieces, and it was just, are we developing the star? And, of course, Corbin Carroll's kind of taking a step backwards right now. So in the National League, I don't know.
Central.
In the NL Central. Can I give you one team, though, that I feel like is following? It's not in the NL Central. I know this isn't the game that you wanted. I feel like the Seattle Mariners are that team that's doing it right now. Like, they've got their star in Julio Rodriguez. They've got their stars in terms of their pitching, and now it's just developing those complementary pieces around them.
Speaking of guys that are struggling this year that have been superstars in the past, have you guys seen what Julio Rodriguez is doing?
Mm-hmm. Not great.
Yeah, he's not offense, the same dude this year.
Their offense sucks in Seattle, but it's like you got the stars on the pitching, and can you just continue to get those guys around the offense?
He's basically Nolan Arenado.
Yeah.
Offensively so far this year. He's batting for average. He's getting on base at an okay clip. It ain't great, but it's okay. It's acceptable. He has no power. He's hit 5 home runs and 5 doubles so far this year. That's the problem for them. Their offense is arguably the worst among all of the contenders, but they're good enough pitching-wise that they're able to make it work. I think they are one of the teams that is trying to follow this model. Hell, the Texas Rangers. Yeah. Went to the World Series last year. How? Because they had Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, who they added in one offseason, and those guys led their lineup. And then they added the supplementary pieces with all of their young guys coming through last year.
Even the Cleveland Guardians, although I couldn't tell you what some of the names of those supplementary pieces are, but they're still pulling it off with their star, Jose Ramirez.
Naylor.
Yeah.
And boom. Now you're ready to go.
But in the NL Central, it feels like it's one of the Pirates or the Reds. I would, if you could combine those two teams together, because the Pirates lack that offensive star that is Elly De La Cruz, but the Reds lack the pitching stars that the Pittsburgh Pirates have. One of those two teams has the opportunity to do it. I don't know if they will, though.
Yeah. Am I crazy to say I still think this might be me being a homer. I still think it's the Cardinals that is most likely to follow this path. They're best set up to follow this path. because you have Goldie coming off of the books next year, because you have so many pitchers that are going to fall potentially off the books in the next year or two. I don't know if he's going to be this guy, but Wilson Contreras could be a star. I don't think he's the number one guy on a championship contending team. Could he be the second or third piece, though? I think he probably could. And if you develop Jordan Walker to be a superstar the way that we all thought as recently as this time last year he could be, that could make sense. Can Nolan Gorman maybe take that next step? Possible. I think he could be your Schwarber. That's like the third piece to that. But really, it just comes down to, can Jordan Walker be that guy? If he can be, I think you've got some of the elements of what it looks like. I don't think the Brewers will spend the money to get here, and I don't know that anybody internally has this kind of potential of being a superstar. The Cubs, I don't think, have this guy internally, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be willing to pay at the top end of the market. They're going very Cardinals-y right now with their build. And I think the Pirates will never spend this kind of money. If they have the pitching, that could be this, and they can get through October. I just don't know that they can get to it, and I don't trust the Reds. Yeah. So I think the Cardinals might still be the team that is best situated to follow this model, even though it doesn't feel that way. That's really about their surrounding teams more than it is about them.
I think they're best situated to do it when we're looking both short-term and long-term, because I agree with you short-term, and I think long-term. Like, I could see in, 5 years the Cardinals trade for a superstar. We've seen them do it before. Now, maybe that equation changes when you change out the Pobo. We'll see. But I think the team that's in it right now is Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's that right now. I'm questioning if Freddie Peralta is a superstar style of pitcher, but I think he's the number one. But they've got the stars there right now. Christian Yelich is back to playing like the MVP Christian Yelich. And you've got William Contreras, the brother of Wilson.
That's a good one.
That is playing like an MVP candidate right now. So I think the team that is best situated currently is Milwaukee Brewers. And no coincidence that we said earlier on the show, they're the class of the National League Central.
Coming up next, it's time to dive into the junk drawer here on BK and Ferrario. Let's dive into the junk drawer. Alex, what do you got for us today?
All right, guys, I don't know if you've ever had this problem at your house or apartment, T-Bone. Do frogs bug the hell out of you?
Like
not really.
in my house?
No, like around your house. Like at night outside, do you hear them and do they annoy the hell out of you?
I find them peaceful, actually.
When I was growing up, we had a pond behind our house, right? I lived in the Kansas City area, and it was a suburb, and there was this big pond behind us. And so we had all of the frogs. Yeah. It felt like the entire frog community took up in Casa de Kylie when I was growing up.
Sounds about right.
So to answer your question, did they bother me growing up as I was living in front of the pond? Alex, I can't tell you how much they bothered me growing up.
Good.
So yes.
Okay, so I had that moment a couple of nights ago. So I talked about it before. Basically, where we live, we got this like woods behind us. So we got a ton of different animals that are around our house all the time. But we've got a swimming pool. And apparently my swimming pool has been a frog congregation spot because the other night, Katie and I are sitting upstairs, we're watching television, and no joke, the backyard sounded like there were 1,000 of them. And I hit my breaking point. We all know me. I can't hold my emotions very well. Sometimes I hit my breaking point. So I've got a salt gun in my house for bugs.
Oh, dude.
I went outside to try and find these frogs and spray them down with the salt gun.
Alex, I don't
just
think you can say that on the radio, man.
It's animal cruelty.
It's not animal cruelty. I was trying to move them along. But anyway, there was one stuck in my pool. And I don't know how to get that damn thing out.
How do these things
you got
frustrate
a net,
you?
right?
No, not in my pool. So pool lining, pool, frog in between the pool lining and the pool.
He's going to die eventually. You're good.
I tried to expedite that, but I couldn't. And this damn thing every night knows that I'm coming for them. And so every time I look like a madman walking around my backyard.
I find the frog noise kind of peaceful.
Oh, it's because it's so freaking loud. There's like 9 of them.
When I go to bed, I like to listen to what are those called?
White noise machines?
Yeah, but mine is on set for
I can't do that.
Rainforest sounds. So you get a little bit of rain and you hear like frogs in the back. I actually find them peaceful.
I need silence. It was so loud in my backyard.
You gotta get yourself a sound machine, bud.
A sound machine? I have one in my damn backyard.
No, but what you have for your kids, I'm assuming you guys probably use one for them. Get one for yourself. Put it in your bedroom.
It
put
doesn't
it next
work,
to your
man.
head. It would work.
I'm telling you.
It would help you avoid going out with a salt gun.
Yeah.
I don't think it would because he would be so much in his own head that he would be thinking to himself, I hear frogs, when really he's hearing like ocean waves.
How are you dealing with the cicadas right now?
Yeah.
They're not as bad around my house anymore.
Okay.
But those are a temporary thing, and they stop by 6 o'clock. This is like nighttime. This is like my relaxing time, and then it's just an entire frog orchestra in my backyard.
I've got an idea for us for a punishment for this year, T-Bone.
If it involves frogs, I'm bringing my salt gun. Just letting you know now.
We should go to a store, buy all of the frogs that exist, and put them in his car.
In my car? Oh, somebody will die. And I'm not just talking about the frogs. Whoever puts that in my car will die.
That would be a brutal punishment.
That is a brand new car. No siree.
So Randy always tells the story about the Chris Long prank that he did, where one of his teammates, he went to his car, and they were going to do all of the foam, the peanuts that you can get when you're packing. They were going to fill it with peanuts. And instead, they filled it, I believe it was crickets that they ended up putting into his car instead. So, yeah, it would basically be the same thing for Alex.
Somebody gets me because they texted in and they said, Alex, that's a salt.
Yeah.
Get it? Salt.
Bad.
We get it, dude.
Assault.
We get it.
Hey, man,
all right.
Don't come into my backyard.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into a game of Believe It or Not. You give us a scenario. We'll tell you if we are believing it or not here on BK and Ferrario. But next, the Cardinals have earned the benefit of the doubt at this point in my mind for their handling of Masyn Winn. I will explain why next here on 101 ESPN.
coming into Houston, the way we've done his playing time, he wanted to play all three here. And we had a conversation yesterday. I think you guys saw it. He took that check swing, kind of felt it a little bit. And after the game, we had a discussion, and it made sense to go ahead and give him today off. So, yeah, he's dealing with it, but he's handled it well, and he continues to play good baseball. But we also do have to be smart with it, and the communication is important, and we both felt like today made a lot of sense based on how he was feeling.
That was Oli Marmol yesterday before the game explaining why Masyn Winn got the day off. And Alex, I was highly critical of the Cardinals last Friday for giving Winn another day off coming off of the off day on Thursday with Alex and T-Bone on BK. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm giving the Cardinals the benefit of the doubt at this point. I feel like we have seen too often over the last 4 games, Winn has something that is nagging at him. The other day it was that check swing where you could tell whether it was an oblique, his back locking up on him again, whatever it was, something's just not at 100% right now. And I thought, and I was clearly wrong on this, that he had gotten past it. I thought we had gotten to the other side of it. It feels like this is just something he's going to deal with this year. And hopefully in the offseason, he's able to get rid of the popcorn the way that Nolan Gorman was, and then maybe next year he can come back and...
Didn't think buttered popcorn was as big of a deal.
But whatever the thing is that is giving him this issue, and maybe it's just, playing baseball every day over the course of 162, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when you're swinging as often as he is. Whatever it is, give him the off days as needed. I'm not pushing back against it anymore. It'll be frustrating to see Brandon Crawford go out there and continue to play, although he has been really good in each of the last 2 starts that he has gotten the opportunity. I will give the benefit of the doubt to Oli Marmol and the Cardinals, because if their handling of this situation allows him to get through the season, which is seemingly a grind right now, and he can continue to play at the same level as he has so far this year, where he's batting .310 with an OPS plus 30% above league average through the first 60 games of the season, and he's only missed 6 of them in their entirety in terms of full off days. Hey, man, good for them. That'll be enough. Cardinals, if they get 90% of the games played by Masyn Winn by the end of the season, they deserve the benefit of that at this point. I'm going to give it to them.
I still don't like it, but after that wincing from Masyn and that at-bat, that kind of solidified the, okay, something must not be right. Yep. Because for the longest time, we really didn't hear from Winn other than him saying, yeah, it's nagging me, but it's fine. But when I saw him wince there, it's okay, something ain't right, and I get what they're doing with this. So I applaud them for finding ways to manage through it, because he has been his best when he has stepped to the plate and played games, and you're going to have to find your way through it. The concerning part is I hope this is just a one-season thing, because if it's every year to where you have to manage 162 with Masyn Winn, man, that's a player that you really don't want to have to manage his playing time, because he's so critical to your team. But if that's the way you have to go about it, making sure he's at his best when he steps on the mound, that's what's best for the Cardinals, because it's very evident he is a pillar of this team. So, I mean, as critical as I am and how much I don't want Brandon Crawford in the lineup, although he's proven me wrong these last couple of games, I understand it, because right now you need Masyn Winn from start to finish if you want to win games.
Yeah, I don't mind the handling of this now that they're upfront and honest about it. The whole issue early on in the season was, well, we had no idea that he was hurt. And look, to an extent, I understand that from the Cardinals' perspective of there's a little gamemanship involved in this as well.
And the player told them, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly. So totally fair from their perspective there. Now that we know and you can even see it at this point, yeah, it's totally fair that they're going to have to try and manage this. The hope for the Cardinals is you can just manage your way through this until hopefully the All-Star break, and then when he gets 4 days off, because even if he gets to the All-Star game, which is possible, at this point he's probably not playing in it because of the back. So your hope is that, okay, you can get to the All-Star game with this, trying to manage through this. You've got Brandon Crawford, who at least now looks serviceable when he is playing, and then you get to the All-Star break, he gets healthy, and boom, you can take off from there. In worst case scenario, if not, you're going to have Crawford, you're going to have Tommy Edman as backups in the second half of the season. So you'll be fine either way. The hope is, to your point, though, it is just a one-season thing, unlike with Gorman, where the last 2 seasons there were issues with it, and he finally got it figured out.
That is the good thing, that you have Tommy Edman coming back, because I don't like the idea of playing Brandon Crawford when you're going to need that. I'd rather have a Tommy Edman in that spot.
So he has played in 49 of the first 60 games. He started, 49 of the first 60 games. That's about 82% of the games that the Cardinals have played so far this year. If he played that exact same percentage of the games as a starter the rest of the way, he would finish with 132 starts this season. Would I like to see him in 162? Absolutely. If you get 132 starts this year out of Masyn Winn, given the fact that his back has been an issue for him for so far the first third of the season, I think we've got to feel pretty good about that, all things considered. And so if this is their best way to handle it and they're able to keep him on the field more often than not and avoid a 10-day IL stint because of the way that they're handling this, hey, credit where it's due. I will go ahead and take my back seat and say, you know what? They know more about this than we do. I'm not going to criticize them anymore. I want to see Masyn Winn in the lineup as often as possible, but if this is the way they're going to handle it, so be it. Alex, I do want to bring up one other thing, baseball related, because this spring training, another mea culpa by me, I said no fewer than 100 times, can you please just sign one of Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell? These are the number 2 starters that you've been looking for. These are the guys that are available that can help you in the spot where you are most efficient. I still believe they need a number 2 starter, but it is becoming increasingly clear to me there is a lesson to be learned for free agents out there next offseason.
Don't use
from what happened with Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell this year. Those guys stink, man. Mm-hmm. Blake Snell went on the injured list after 6 starts with a 9.5 ERA. He looked bad, getting a bunch of strikeouts, but getting hit around like crazy. 12 hits per 9 innings after last year averaging 5 hits per 9 innings. And it hasn't been a whole lot better for Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery in his first 2 starts against San Francisco and, yes, of course, your St. Louis Cardinals was awesome. 6 innings and 7 innings allowed a total of 4 earned runs. Alex, since then, this is dating back to May 1st now that you're looking at in terms of what we've seen from Jordan Montgomery. 7 starts, 33 innings, 8.5 ERA. The value of spring training is still there for major league starters. These guys didn't get that, and they've been bad for their respective teams so far this season. Mea culpa by me. Cardinals got it right by avoiding the guys that continued or did not pitch in spring training. They didn't make another mistake similar to what they did with Greg Holland. What was that, 7 years ago now?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And frankly, it should be a situation where agents need to get their starting pitchers signed before spring training and not hold out to try and get the most money, because you're seeing what this is. Both Montgomery and Snell suffer from what they did this past offseason because they're not going to get that massive contract that they expected. Probably going to get another 1-year deal, maybe because of this season. I won't give the Cardinals credit because I felt like you should have signed one of those guys in the offseason so that you could have had them in spring training, but I will give them credit of not getting into this race late, because you could be this, and this would be a disaster for the Cardinals because you'd be banking on one of these guys to be your number 2, and they'd be pitching like a number 5 or worse.
They would have no flexibility financially at the deadline now, so you got to give up more prospects to have the other team eat more of the money. So they'd be stuck.
Yeah, they would be stuck. Now, I still agree with Alex on an extent there. Like, if you could have gotten them to a good deal before like spring training had started, I think these guys would be having success.
But if those deals were available, they would have signed someone.
Exactly. And like, I'm not too critical. Like, a lot of people say, well, the teams were being cheap. I'm actually not that critical on the teams. Like, Blake Snell should not have gotten a multi-year long-term deal, because this can be Blake Snell. Even though I do think a lot of this is on his short spring or no spring training, that's Blake Snell. Blake Snell goes through periods where he's awesome and goes through periods where he sucks. Jordan Montgomery, the industry views him as a 3, and he wanted to get paid like a 2, so it all made sense. But yeah, I think the Cardinals, if you want to say that they learned their lesson from the Greg Holland experience, I think this is where they really learned the lesson was, hey, once we get to spring training, we're not bringing in a lot of pitchers, because we saw what happens. It's very hard for those guys without training, without spring training or a shortened spring training. It's very hard for those pitchers to find a rhythm and get back to their game.
The Cardinals didn't do everything right this offseason by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing they mostly did is avoid the landmines. And that is not the case for the Diamondbacks. It has not been the case for the San Francisco Giants. The Cardinals were able to avoid those, and as a result, they do have 3 solid pitchers as a part of their rotation. So credit to them for that. They, again, have not done everything right. They're below 500 right now. But it's better for them to not have those guys that are having a terrible season than if they were on their roster. All right, coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not here on 101 ESPN.
All right, BK, don't screw this up today.
Yeah, seriously.
Stick to the script.
We'll send you back to the morning show if you do. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
free.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
There it is.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. I'll stick with you guys for one more day, and then I'll go back to the morning show on Monday.
That's just because we like to start our week on a positive note.
Of course you will.
The tone guy.
Yeah, this guy's like, man, that's not true. Look at the statistics on it.
We'll do 2 more morning shows over the next 2 weeks.
Who are you hosting with on Monday?
Randy. Yeah,
poor
Randy each of the
Randy.
next 2 Mondays.
You're going to use tone with Randy, aren't you?
No, I'm going to try to be on my best behavior.
There will be a fight at some point that day.
8:30 a.m., I believe, is when that will happen.
There will be a fight that you and Randy have together at some point that day.
Hey, I don't write the fight questions, so I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah.
As long as we don't talk baseball at any point and we don't have to discuss anything.
Bradford gets that alliteration in there on those questions.
Yeah, we are so getting a remake of this.
You're an idiot. You are an absolute 100% total idiot.
I think that's what our boss is hoping for.
I pray we get one
I
of
know
those.
they are because I just saw Ryder shake his head.
What happens if BK says that to Randy?
No, I would never. I have too much respect. He's a legend. No
Okay.
chance.
Sure, you have respect. Has he heard your tone?
He has, and that's why he unfollowed me on Twitter. My goal for Monday is to get him to follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. Good luck. I don't know if I'd follow you on Twitter if we didn't work together.
Yeah, believe it or not, BK will have Randy follow him on Twitter over the next 2 Mondays.
I'll believe it. I'll believe it.
chance.
Here's what I think will happen. I will believe it, and then he'll click unfollow that second Tuesday.
Yeah, that second Tuesday, I'll be like, yeah, we're done now. And I'll have to see him again.
Let's get an updated how many people does Randy Carricker follow Cat?
A lot.
Gotta be everybody.
He hasn't blocked me yet, so that's a plus.
Follows me, I think.
He follows 7,000 people.
Follows me?
Wow.
Actually,
Not among them.
Hold on. Let me double
That's tough.
Let me double check that. Randy Carricker does follow me. Double checking.
I follow a lot of people. I follow 1,800. Randy follows 7,000.
Wow.
He works. How many people are on this station? So
there's 4 in the morning. There's 2. Then there's 3, and then there's 4. So 4, 8, 11, 13
people on the station.
And Mike Ryder.
I bet you he follows, including himself, he can follow 12 others. I bet you he follows 11 of them.
I bet you he follows Bradford Bruns and not BK.
Still follows me.
Yeah.
You can't even find my
By the way,
account.
tell me this does not sound like Ferrario. You guys just list off how many people you follow. I follow 1,100 people.
I follow 1,800.
Yeah,
T-Bone,
I don't
where
follow.
are you at?
2?
I follow 300.
Oh, damn.
Damn, right.
T-Bone's got a
339.
tight did I fit into that? Am I one of the 300?
I don't know. T-Bone has me
You're
blocked
there,
on
but
Twitter.
it'd just be a little awkward if I didn't.
T-Bone just has me blocked on Twitter. So.
All right, let's get into Believe It or Not. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. Guys, believe it or not, somebody other than the Chiefs will be in the Super Bowl this year out of the AFC.
I'm going to say not believe it.
Think the Chiefs get back?
Yeah, I can't go unless an injury happens. I can't go against the grain that is Kelsey, Mahomes, and I know that team is going to find some type of addition. Probably Valdez-Scantling again or Juju Smith-Schuster at the deadline, and they'll win another Super Bowl.
Just got Mikolas Hardman back today.
It's a hard man to cover.
I would say not believe it because I think you will see the Chiefs back, and I think it's so weird to say this. I think they're a little bit worse defensively than they were a year ago, but I think they're better offensively. And when you are better offensively with the best quarterback in the league, I'm going to take you to get back to the Super Bowl.
I'm going to believe it as I'm not going to believe it as well. I think the Chiefs get back, but you guys knew that.
I'm kind of rooting for a three-peat. I think that's awesome to see.
I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Unless my Detroit Lions are in.
I think the defense is going to take a step back. I think that the defense was always going to take a step back, though, because we see this every year. It's so hard to maintain that high of a level of performance on the defensive side of the ball. Offense is much more stable, and they have done so much to improve that side of the ball. I think it could get ugly early on, though. No Rashee Rice. They're going to be without one of their best defensive ends early in the season. Their left guard, Joe Tooney, is hurt right now. We'll see if he's going to be at 100%. Like, it might be 6 weeks or so before we see them at their best. But once we do, they'll hit their stride kind of like last year and go into the playoffs, hit the ground running. Alex, what do you got for us today?
Guys, believe it or not, Edmonton doesn't win more than one game in the final.
I will not believe this. I think this has 6 games written all over it. I am going to take Florida. I like Florida to win in 6. But I think Edmonton will have at least one game where their top line just takes over, and one game where their special teams wins them a game as well. So I think they win 2, and ultimately the Panthers win this thing in 6. So I'm not going to believe this.
I'm not going to believe this either, but I think you see Florida win in 6. That's kind of where I am. This feels like the kind of series where it could go. You see Florida win the first 2 at home, Edmonton gets 2 at home, and then Florida finds a way to win that final road game to win the series. And I just don't see this being a sweep. I think McDavid and the Oilers' power play is too good that it's something that we talked about this, I think, Monday. It's something that is so good that they're not so reliant on it, but it can keep them in games. And that's where I think it's a difference maker.
I'm going to believe this. When Florida shuts down the best players, and I understand it's McDavid, it's Draisaitl, and those are tough guys to shut down, Edmonton has no depth. Like, their best 4 guys were Nugent Hopkins, Zach Hyman, McDavid, and Draisaitl. A lot of that was on the power play, but even strength-wise, the line of Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman, that was it. The Florida Panthers shut down one of the better offensive lines in the New York Rangers for 6 games. Like, Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad had a total of 6 points in that 6-game series.
It's a little different, though, than
I get it, but
McDavid and Draisaitl.
If you don't take a lot of penalties and don't put them on the power play, you force them to play even strength. And I think Florida Panthers defense is better at even strength. And I'm not sure Edmonton has those points. So I'm going to say I think this is a 5-game series. I think Edmonton wins 1 game and Florida closes it out.
Connor McDavid has 31 points in the postseason. Leon Draisaitl has 28 points in the postseason. They've played 18 games.
Did you see McDavid's only got 6 goals, too? 5? Yeah. It's all coming on assists.
He didn't even have that many goals in the regular season this year for McDavid standards.
Yeah, I mean, for McDavid standards, but that's a good thing because you're not relying on him to be the lone producer offensively.
He would have had 100 points this year if he didn't score a goal.
Which is unbelievable.
Yep. That's Wayne Gretzky types of stats.
So ridiculous,
but seriously, though, look at the stats.
That's why I said the Oilers in our previous conversation.
Zach Hyman, 54 bleeping goals.
Look at the stat line in the playoffs, though. When you take out McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and
good luck.
I get it, but that's your power play. But it's a significant drop.
Against the Dodgers, if you're able to take out Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, I mean, you got a real shot to beat them.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially the equivalent of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Again, keep them off the power play, and they're not going to be as dangerous as they are.
T-Bone?
Guys, believe it or not, by the end of June, the Cardinals will have separated themselves from the muddy middle in the NL.
Believe it, because
in a good way. In a good way.
Way to go,
I knew where you were going.
I'm gonna say believe it, and I'm worried about you got 4 against Colorado. Pittsburgh is not a pushover this year, but you have 3 against them. I do not think they're one of the better teams in the National League. It's gonna be hard to score in that series. You should, though. You should win 2 out of 3. You got the Cubs, who I think have been overrated all year long. Miami's terrible. San Francisco, I think, is about to go down their spiral. I think this is where you make your move. If it's going to happen for the Cardinals this year, this should be when it happens. So I'll say believe it, and I think they end up by the end of this stretch of games when they take on Atlanta on June 24th. I will say the Cardinals are in the 2nd wild card spot in sole possession of that in the National League.
I'm going to say not believe it. I think they win 3 series the rest of the month. I think you win the Colorado series. I think you win the Giants series. I think you win the Marlins series. All the other ones, I think you lose, and I think that keeps you either in the muddy middle or you go the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe it either. I know they had a recent run where they had a really good homestand against Boston, Baltimore, and then I don't remember who the third one was, Cincinnati maybe. I just don't know if they can play good enough baseball to separate themselves. I don't think they play bad enough baseball to fall out of it completely, but I don't think they can separate themselves by the end of June.
All right, guys, let's get to some of these from the text line from the 314. Guys, believe it or not, Mizzou will make the college football playoff this year now that it is expanded to 12 teams.
Back-to-back days where he's referencing Mizzou making the CFP. Somebody is very optimistic.
Hey, the text line's sending it in. This isn't my question. This is the text line.
You're right. Believe it.
I believe it. I think they're a pretty good program. I think they can get in. With 12 teams getting in, sure, they can make it.
Where do you think they rank offensively in the SEC by the end of the season?
Offensively?
Top 5?
Oh, yeah. Top
3?
He'll be behind probably Georgia. And maybe Texas. Like, I love Quinn Ewers at quarterback. So maybe Texas.
Yeah, you can make a pretty strong argument for Texas, but other than that, I mean, it's hard to
figure out who the other ones would be.
Maybe Ole Miss. They've got like a million transfers that decided to go there. I don't know what LSU is doing at quarterback this year, but that would be another one you could maybe throw into the mix. They lost a ton of talent at wide receiver as well, but those would be the other programs that are in the conversation. I'll say top 3 conservatively.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Believe it or not, Dvorsky has a higher ceiling for the Blues than Jordan Walker does for the Cardinals. Not. Jordan Walker has a chance to be a superstar. I'm not getting off of that just based on the fact that he's had a really bad month of baseball at the big league level.
I would say they're even. I mean, I think Dvorsky has a chance to be a superstar from what we've seen. I'll say not, though, because I do believe Jordan Walker has MVP caliber to him. Dalibor Dvorsky, I don't see as winning the MVP in the National Hockey League, but I think he will be one of your best players, if not best players, by the end of his tenure in St. Louis.
I would add one other thing. I've seen Walker do it.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
I've seen it happen for him at the NHL level. Dvorsky had some really impressive numbers last year, but it was at juniors. So that's the next level. That is the separation for me. So I would still say Jordan Walker.
Yeah, I would too. So I'd say not believe this because I think with Walker, I think you could see a superstar. One, we've seen it. Two, his profile seems to be there. The reason I'm not sure on Dvorsky is when I think superstar now is is he a 100-point guy?
Yeah.
Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But I think his floor or his ceiling is going to be that he is going to end up being a really good player.
All right, coming up next, speaking of Dalibor Dvorsky, the Blues fully anticipate that he is going to be a part of the next core group of players that leads them to the promised land. Who else is a part of that? Drew Bannister mentioned at least 3 of them. We'll tell you who they are next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, we're officially here. It's the best time of the year. It's the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals happening simultaneously. I like the Oilers in Game 1. I like the Celtics in Game 1. What that means, $100 on the Circa Sportsbook wins me $220. If I did that exact same bet over on FanDuel, though, it only wins me $200. I'm getting $20 more by betting over on Circa Sports. That is why I exclusively bet with them.
That's right. I've got my NBA parlay, BK. I know what you're thinking. I don't watch the game, but I promise you this one. I'm saying the Mavericks win it on the money line. I'm saying we're getting the over in points, and I'm taking our guy Jason Tatum to pick up 30 in the game. You bet $10 on that on the DraftKings app, you win $75. You do it on the Circa Sports Illinois app, you're winning $105. That's why you need to use Circa. You get tight money line splits. You're bringing in the most money possible on those parlays. We tell everybody, make sure you are downloading this. Make sure you check out the other sportsbook apps like we just told you to see what those odds are. You'll always come back to Circa Sports Illinois. Plus, they've got incredible customer service. You're always talking to a person, not a robot. Download it today. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Terry Hendricks here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals were able to avoid a sweep yesterday with the win over the Astros 4-2. They start a 4-game set with the Colorado Rockies tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Cal Quantrill will get the start for Colorado. Sonny Gray's on the mound for St. Louis. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, we got Game 1 of the NBA Finals for you between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. We'll have bringing coverage starting at 6:30. The Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Hey, the Fast Lane had your chance yesterday to score a pair of tickets to see the St. Louis Battlehawks take on the Brahmas in a home playoff game on Sunday at 6 o'clock at the Battle Dome at America's Center. And you can be a part of the home field advantage when the Battlehawks take them on by just texting into the Fast Lane yesterday.
Oh, they forgot to give tickets away, huh?
They sure did, Alex. I walked in today and I saw Stalter had his 17 different sports betting apps up ready to go for him here. I saw Kerry Davis had his 7 different cameras that he's got, all of the angles. He actually got one. He found one that is down the foul pole line. It's amazing. He was so interested in figuring out how to get this down the line.
Just stop
they happened to forget how to give away tickets on their show.
You are one pathetic loser.
You know, for a group
we'll
of
go ahead and do that for them right now.
You know, for a group of 3 that talks ish on us a lot, that was karma.
They, at the beginning of their show yesterday, talked a whole lot of junk.
Called you a nerd?
How we forgot, it was fair, deserved, how we forgot to give away our Cardinals tickets. They forgot to give away the Battlehawks playoff tickets.
Unbelievable.
The first playoff game in St. Louis, pro football playoff game here in 20 years. They have free tickets to give away, and they didn't do it. So we're going to do that for you right now. It's a pair of tickets to see the Battlehawks coming up on Sunday at 6 o'clock at the Battle Dome. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If your texture number 101, and you have the correct answer to the following question, you're getting this free pair of tickets, not courtesy of the Fast Lane. They didn't do that for you. This is courtesy of BK and
You're welcome.
Ferrario.
You are welcome. That's an apostrophe.
Alex has a problem, and earlier today he talked about it. He took the salt gun to his backyard yesterday for what? What was the animal that he was trying to get rid of in his backyard? If you have the correct answer to that question,
an animal, it's a nuisance.
Your texter number 101, you're getting those Battlehawks tickets. By the way, you can get yours right now if you don't win them. Just $25, available at theufl.com/tickets. All right, Alex, yesterday you listened to the interview that Curbside, the podcast, did with Drew Bannister. He was talking about some of the Blues young players and how they're going to be a part of the court. Who was he talking about there? What'd you learn?
There was a big 3 that he was talking about. They discussed, and it's Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, and Jordan Kyrou. He referenced all 3 of them. Curbs asked him about, the growth of Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, and Jordan Kyrou. And in all 3 answers that Drew Bannister talked about, he talked about how there's untapped potential with those 3. Those guys are our pillars moving forward with the St. Louis Blues. And it's hard to deny that. I mean, Jordan Kyrou, I know he's a select brand for some people, but 25 years old, a guy who scored 35 goals for you, and a player that you look at and you say, yeah, it makes sense that they're trying to build around that. And the name that T-Bone shouted out was not referenced. Now, Curbs didn't bring him up, understandably so, but it just is interesting to me that a 24-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 31-year-old, but he's a 31-year-old guy that you just can't replicate around the NHL. Those are the guys that you're building around. And the 31 that I referenced was not a forward who would sign a contract as a UFA.
Yeah, man, the thing that always just gets to me is it's not a one-off. Sometimes, I'm a fantasy football player, right, Alex? So
well,
when you go through...
It's a loose term.
When you go through training camp reports, if you hear, hey, player X had a really good day at practice, that means nothing. When you hear for a 3-week stretch, hey, player X had a really good practice over and over and over again, and it's somebody that you weren't anticipating having a good season, that's somebody that I'll go ahead and take at the end of a draft, because now there is the drumbeat of that guy outperforming expectations. To give the comparison on that for the Blues, dude, the Blues have been steadfast on how they view Jordan Kyrou. They have never altered their view of him. At every turn, they have told you, we view this guy as one of the franchise cornerstones here in St. Louis. They didn't trade him for Matthew Tkachuk. They didn't make him available at any point in the past history as far as what we know. And they gave him the big contract that matched Robert Thomas's at the first opportunity that they could. They didn't go short bridge deal. No, they wanted him to be here for the long haul. They think this is eventually going to be a steal for him. This year, there was probably a point in time where it became a question of, like, do we side with Craig Berube or Jordan Kyrou? Guess what? They stuck with Jordan Kyrou. Now, this offseason, the beginning of the offseason, Doug Armstrong said repeatedly, Jordan Kyrou is one of the guys that we can continue to build around here in St. Louis. We believe in this guy. He's a game-breaking talent. I don't think they're moving on from him. Fans can want it. Fans can clamor for it all they want to. I think Jordan Kyrou is one of their franchise players right now, and he's only 26 years old. They believe that he's going to get better. I don't feel the same way about Pavel Buchnevich. I don't think they feel the same way about Buchnevich, and I think a lot of that is because of where they're at and what his age is. He's going to be 29 years old.
Yeah, and I think it's important to clarify that. Like, this isn't about we don't want Buch or you don't think that Buch is a good enough player. Like, he's an awesome player. But right now, he's in his prime, and when you're ready to compete, he's going to be out of his prime. And we talked earlier this week, not out of his prime, but he's not going to be the same player. And we talked earlier this week about how you pay certain players and how they match into the amount of money you're throwing at them. I don't know if 3 years from now, when you're ready to compete, Pavel Buchnevich is a top 6 forward for you. And to pay $8 million for that puts you in a tough position to where now I wonder if you can float that to get something right in the same age group as what you have or what you're hoping to have by the time you're ready to compete. I know it doesn't sound good because it makes you a worse team now, but if you nail what you're acquiring, it either makes you a slight bit better in another area this season, or by year 2 of this retool, we're talking about that player being an impactful core piece of your roster.
Would you trade him for a maybe? If the New Jersey Devils, for example, called you and said, we'll give you the number 10 overall pick, send us Pavel Buchnevich. Is that something you're willing to consider? Instead of getting something that is right now, you're getting a return on your investment. You're getting a maybe.
I would much rather get something now in a return, but I would take a shot with a maybe if that's what's in front of me. Because guess what? Buch signing a contract extension is a maybe for you. I don't know if he's the same player that you're going to be paying $8 million. And if I'm getting a maybe, which, look, I think I saw Jay Fresh put it out there, like, for the last 3 or 4 years, teams have hit in terms of NHL caliber draft picks at like 33% with all of their drafts. So it's a big maybe. But if you're telling me I'm in the top 10 and one of these guys that Scott Wheeler and Corey Pryman have talked about as a potential top defenseman, or even if the defensemen are gone and you get a forward that's in the same vein as a Dvorsky and a Snuggerud, and I'm trading a guy who will be 30 years old by the time he is a UFA signing a contract extension, I'll take that maybe and hope I develop him into something.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. We do have our winner for those Battlehawks tickets, so you do not have to text in any longer. We got the 101st texter, so congratulations to him. You're welcome for giving those to you here on BK and Ferrario. I do believe the Fast Lane will have another opportunity to give those away for you later on this evening. We'll see if they actually do it. For Alex T-Bone, I'm BK. The Rewind is next. Alex and T-Bone on BK. If you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Saw Kerry Davis during the break. Thought he was going to snap me in half.
Did he threaten you? You took a lot of shots at him, man. I'll take shots at Stoltz any day of the week, but I'm not going to take shots at him.
I was walking into the bathroom as Kerry walked out, and
Jesus.
They had us on in the bathroom.
Oh, man.
So, whoa.
Kerry, we're good. We're good.
Hey, we got witnesses here, man. We got witnesses here.
And then Ryder's just like, hey, I'm going to go give him the audio. Thanks, you jerk.
So, still here.
Cool. So one of us, BK or T-Bone or Alex, one of the three of us won't be here tomorrow.
True or false, T-Bone? Alex would be happy if I wasn't here.
True.
Just moving forward.
T-Bone, I was a pretty pleasant person to be around on Monday, wasn't I?
Yeah, we had no issues on Monday.
I thought it was been a good week for us here on the show.
Monday was probably the best day of the week, though, I would say.
Checks out. All right, for the rewind here today. Cardinals get the win yesterday. They do so with Miles Mikolas giving them 6 strong innings, but then, your manager decides to take him out of the game before he gets to 70
That's
pitches.
your manager.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's the aggressive move. I think it was the right move. Now, you are going to eventually have to win games without Hurley, Romero, and Kittredge coming in. And I think that's more on your offense than it is anything else, guys. Eventually, this team has got to start putting other teams away. It feels like every single night that you have a chance to win, you're up by 1 or 2 runs and you got to go to your high leverage arms. I want them to be able to go to Kyle Leahy. I want them to be able to go to, who's that new guy, Roycroft that they've got up? Go to him. Like, go to these guys. Go to John King. Go to those guys that can get you out of the game eventually, but you got to be up by more than 2 runs to be able to do that. Last night, they didn't have that opportunity. They needed that win in a bad way. I thought it was the right move.
Yeah, I had no problem with the move because you had to get that win. I think things would be a lot different if you were swept by the Houston Astros. I don't think it's that much of a difference to win 1 game. But that to me is that's the meteor coming at you right now, is the fact that you only can win games if Hurley, Kittredge, and Romero come out of the bullpen because your offense can't break through. Your offense right now is showing power, but it's with nobody on the base paths. And you're pitching, a lot of these guys are 5 and dives right now because with the exception of 1, maybe 2 dudes, there's no trust in them once you get to that 3rd time through the order. So I think that's a massive problem for this team. Right now, it's keeping you in the race, but it feels a lot like you are exhausting everything you can to win games in June. And by August, this team is going to be out of gas.
All right. Coming up tonight, you are taking on the Colorado Rockies. Sonny Gray on the mound. This got to be a win day. You got to go out there and win this one. Cal Quantrill's actually been really good this year, strangely enough. His split finger is giving everybody fits. Opposing offenses are batting 144 against it, and they basically have no slugging percentage whatsoever. He's, so far this year, had the best off-speed offerings in all of Major League Baseball. Shocking to me as well as you. But his fastball stinks. Sit fastball, hit that thing like crazy, get a win tonight against the Colorado Rockies. You should win this one like 6-2.
Is it a 6:45 start?
Yeah.
You got to start early, man, because Sonny Gray, that humidity is going to kick in, and he's going to 1 out earlier.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We do have coming up tomorrow, by the way, Clint Hurdle on the show. Former Colorado Rockies manager. Want to get his thoughts on what it's like to coach an aging superstar. He had a couple of those early on in his tenure in Colorado. So we'll talk to him about that. For Alex, T-Bone, I'm BK. Fastlane coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Dating 5 times tougher than hitting a Hurley fastball.
Oh, my God.